Hello, what's up, Race Brain Podcast. My name is Rich Ryan, joined by the tandem, who is the second fastest doubles team in all of the Chicagoland area, Bracken Crocker and Jack Bauer. Boys, how we feeling after that accomplishment?
Like I got hit by a truck.
I got hit by like a van, not a truck. I'm feeling a lot better today, but the day after was not treating my body nicely. I forgot how much Hyrox hurts.
If you say truck with tank treads, because it just kept rolling. Like there's not a part of me. Every angle got it.
Yeah.
If you guys were like an old school, like WWE, WWF tag team, which tag team would you guys be?
Dudley Boys.
Dudley Boys?
Sure.
Yeah.
Who
I
are
like
they?
them. You don't remember them?
I'm not
I
sure.
didn't watch wrestling.
Oh,
Not-
they came from ECW. They were like in the hardcore division. So whenever it was like Edge and Christian, Jeff and Matt Hardy, and then the Dudley Boys that have like their triple threat TLC table ladder chair matches, like they were the guys.
This was, I think I was out of wrestling by this point. I bailed by like right after like Stone Cold. That was like probably
Okay.
right in that era. After
So
Stone Cold.
you were there during the Attitude Era at least?
I think so.
Because I was probably 90. So I was born in 89. I was probably like 1997, probably like 8 years old, third grade, something. That sounds about right for the start.
Mhm.
And then I think freshman year of high school, I was like, that's about
Yeah.
enough. So I had like a 5 or 6 year window.
I was on the off ramp probably when I was in 8th grade, which would have been 99. So yeah, I was probably right at the beginning.
Yeah.
From time
So,
to time on our podcast, we'll get into like some kind of techie running talk, and we'll get some messages like, I really like running, but I'm new to it. And you lost me. And this is how I'm getting a taste of it now. Like
Yeah.
I recognize all the words you're using. I know they're real words, but in the combination you're using them in, I'm not getting a picture here.
This is how I feel when you guys talk about shoes. I'm like, go ahead, guys.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
MBD's excited about this conversation. MBD mentioned 2 minutes in. All right, so let's start. We're going to talk about some Hyrox in Chicago. We had the first major of all time and the first major of the season. So there's a lot to talk about there and kind of break down how the season's kind of playing out and what we can speculate from this first event going forward on the men's and women's side. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the new Spartan schedule that was released toward the back half of the episode. But yeah, so let's just start first. Let's just talk about the doubles real quick. How was it? I didn't get to see. I was going to come down. I stayed at the Sable. It was probably a 2.5 minute commute,
If that.
and I was just like, I'm not going. I'm sitting right here in my room.
I got my
I'm
own
just
race.
not doing it. Yeah, I just didn't want to do anything other than that. But I got these splits up for you boys.
Yeah,
and-
Rich. Before we dive into the race, I didn't see you the day before. I saw you after when you were about to walk around the venue for your own race and stuff. Do you know how the day before the race went for me?
I did not hear. Or
Okay, well,
I knew you had some funny, like you were at the airport at the same time. Kent and I were at the airport, but different airports, and we got into Chicago like 12 hours before you.
no, I flew from Colorado Springs, had a layover in Denver, and I was in Colorado Springs Airport when you guys were about to take off. That's what Cam was texting me about.
Right.
But this is about Hyrox and Bracken, so of course poop is involved.
Mhm.
So I took a lift from O'Hare Airport because it was taking like an hour 45, almost 2 hours to get to the hotel with the train.
Jeez.
I'm like, this is crazy.
Was that like $100 lift?
With the train? It took that
No,
long?
it was like $40. Yeah, because it was like time of day or something. I couldn't believe
What?
it.
Well,
yeah,
trains don't get slower.
No,
to catch more.
Look, I would have had to walk, and I'm not walking in Chicago at night when I have a race at 8 a.m. the next morning also. But anyway, so took a lift. It was like $40, surprisingly. And I got dropped off, take 2 steps out of the car, and I step in dog poop. And
I did hear about the dog poop.
I was like, this did not just happen. And so my night got off to a terrible start. I'm like, I got to clean these out. I'm not going in the hotel room. So
Which is a good roommate move. It's a good. It's considerate.
I went to Navy Pier, cleaned those bad boys up, and
You walk like a half mile to use a different bathroom.
I'm not sleeping in a room with.
Well,
with
no, but
fresh-
hotels have lobby restrooms.
I'm sure they've
I don't
dealt with it
care.
before. And the concierge should
I
probably
also needed to
have
find food,
quick
and
solution.
yeah, I needed to find food. I was going to be a Navy Pier anyway. So I'm like, I might as well like try scuffing this off and stuff on the way there. But anyway, that was the case. But during the race itself, nothing was involved, but comes full circle with Bracken and Hyrox and poop. So
Always poop.
That was good. Yep.
Always poop. The sled push, it was fast, but there's still, looks like there was still time there. Did you guys go half and half?
We ended up, our plan was to go halves or thirds, since when you and I did it, like
We did
wasn't-
halves.
yeah, it was halves, and I felt like I could use rest.
Mm.
And then we got on there, and Jack just kept moving.
I just went the
length.
whole way. I'm like, this is really easy.
I'm like, that seems excessive. I'll do one length for him to give him rest, but I don't want to. And then I realized, yeah, they're just moving. So we went length, but we
then we did half the last two.
Okay.
Just because we weren't sure like what the rest of the race was going to be, but we could have easily done both of our pushes to go the whole length.
We started at the cadence and effort that you normally would need. So like my push back was not fast, but halfway down I thought, oh, I'm going to be able to run the next one. Yeah. So we left a lot of time on, but again, intentionally, we wanted to work a little more on the back half of the sled pull and the burpees.
And the sled pull went what? Did you guys do halves and sled pull as well?
Wow, I don't even remember.
I think we did the same deal. I did a full length first. You did a full length, and then we did half and half.
Because that transition is probably slower than a sled push transition, right?
Yeah,
probably.
Because you can just get out of the way,
but like you still.
But it has
set
to
up.
stop either way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But and then I ended up it was again there was new carpet. We've never felt this in the US like this. So I ended up doing a lot of hand over hand on the back half.
Yep.
So there's new carpet across the it wasn't like they had new carpet just for Elite 15 and then it was
everywhere
there's new carpet. Okay. And you guys were the first race of the day.
Yeah.
We
were the first people because we were in the 8 o'clock wave and leading at that point. We were like the first people to touch that carpet. So yeah, we were ahead of them, Chad and Bruce at that point.
Were we? Look at that.
Nice.
I think the push was when we passed them on the run after that.
Oh, was Chad and Bruce that were in front of you?
Yeah.
Those dudes are beasts, man.
They got out.
That's goals.
Yeah.
Although there was actually another group that got out within half a lap, Rich. We were, I don't think I'm exaggerating either. We were 80 meters down.
I was going to say pushing 100 meters. Yeah.
And coming into the first transition, we were 100 meters down and they ran past it and did an extra lap.
Oh no.
But I'm not kidding you. They were running with their strides and probably pacing faster than 5K. I've never seen anyone run that aggressive.
Who was that?
I don't know. They were young.
No clue. We wanted to find out.
They must have faded.
We finish up something and see them coming out of Skierg and they are hauling again.
It was our heading into our second lap. We passed the out zone from Skierg. So basically they ran one extra lap, did their skier. We came out at the same time. So there was like a 2-minute buffer at that point. And then
their
they passed us like
had to have been
crazy.
1 minute faster minimum than everyone else.
Yeah.
So you guys were second in overall and second in age group. So this would not qualify you for Worlds?
We are not.
Well, we thought we won.
You are now? You are, you said?
We're not.
Oh.
They were in some other wave too. We didn't know they were there.
Yeah.
So,
we were the first wave and we thought they seeded it. So we didn't really consider there'd be someone else.
Yeah. We had enough in the tank where we could have battled, change our strategy.
Pretty good time.
52-31.
Yeah. Joe Stacy and Blake Mistretta. I talked to them for a second after the race. And they're like, dude,
that's a legit time.
Work.
Yeah.
I was like, you did.
Yeah.
Got him.
I think that the thing that I feel, and you've felt this throughout Hyrox, we just didn't have the opportunity to face them. So it's not just the Elite 15. It's like we didn't have the right to lose, basically. It's like if they beat us, they beat us. But like if you don't even give us the chance to face them head to head, it's like that just kind of sucks. So that's how I feel about it.
I'm going to say this. They would have worked us.
Jack disagrees.
The only way we beat, 3 minutes is we both ran the same thing, right? We both won our waves. So we ran the same way. No one was close to them. And by the halfway point, we were a minute clear. So we both had the same setup and they put 3 minutes on us, which means the only way we would have beat them is if we would have baited them into running too hard and then they crack. But I didn't have 3 more minutes in me. Jack might have.
I was going to say, Bracken, I'm not going to throw you under the bus.
Do it.
I was definitely holding back on the runs. I think that we had at least 2 minutes there. I think could have gone 10 to 15 seconds at a reasonably similar effort on those runs.
Was there a stronger wrestler in the Dudley brothers?
Dudley boys.
Dudley boys? Which one was the stronger?
Well, they weren't like the great. I picked them because they were
Jack
like
Dudley?
pretty good. No, they had Devon and Bubba Ray. No one wants to be Spike Dudley though. He was like the other one. But
BK
anyway,
was Spike
I
Dudley.
digress. Yeah. Yeah.
I told Jack after and then messaged him again yesterday. That was way harder than the Michigan Super.
Really?
Yeah, like Michigan Super was difficult, but this hurt way worse. My fitness felt like 50% worse at Hyrox than it did at a Spartan race right now.
But you were also like training from Michigan to here wasn't like linear for you.
It didn't do anything.
it was linear.
Yeah, it was linear.
Down.
Just down.
But how much fitness can you lose in 3 weeks?
Some.
Enough.
Some.
For
And
sure,
it's not,
some.
it was
You said
it was
you
a
were running like
different
a
race.
baby. You're probably all
entirely different
uncoordinated.
race. But I left Michigan thinking I have more fitness than I thought I had. And I left Hyrox thinking I have less fitness than I thought I had.
It's a roller coaster,
It was
man.
hard. You can't fake a Hyrox.
Yeah.
Like you can
No.
fake a Spartan race because most of it's running. But you can't fake a Hyrox because most of it's not running.
And it's just
time
like,
wise, it still is. But
time wise, it still is. But like, there's nowhere to hide. Like in a Spartan, you can like kind of go slow and still be like fast.
If you're a good technical runner, you can make up ground if you're aggressive on a certain portion where the other person's just slowing down because
there's like some rest like baked in.
and
there.
muscle memory. Like I can do a carry because it's mostly running. I can do a twister because it's muscle memory. You can't muscle memory burpee broad jumps. Like if you haven't been doing them, they punch you right in the
They
diaphragm.
hurt.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a good reminder that hybrid can't be played with.
Nope.
I'm in better shape overall than when Rich and I did it. And I was nowhere near the performance of what I did with Rich.
The time does not suggest that.
The specificity of it does matter. I mean, that's something
Everything.
I find out almost every race. Like, okay, I wasn't specifically ready for this one, and it went worse than when I was.
Yeah.
Where in OCR, it's like you're just generally ready for whatever is going to be thrown at
Yeah.
you. It's hard to be like so dialed in all the way to specifics. It's closer to running track, right? Like,
Yeah.
track versus cross country, where OCR is more cross country, and where
Yeah.
you can kind of be broadly ready and just strong. But if you want to be sharp on a track, you got to be ready for what's coming.
Last year, I thought if there were two me's on course instead of Rich, we still would have won, but we would have been slower. This year, if there were two me's, we would have been worse. If there were two Jacks, we would have been faster. And I think it was really clear. So it was an interesting wake up call.
I was honestly
specificity matters.
I was honestly thinking that we had a different race, you and I, Bracken, because most of the time I would come off of the run and be the first one to do the station. You had to, so I was compromised I was fresh from the run heading into a station. You were compromised from the movement heading into the run. So that was a little different. But at the end, like I was the last one to do the wall ball or the lunges heading into the run before wall ball. And there were a couple times when I did it last and I didn't notice it necessarily, but I wonder if like maybe that means you're better off on going first, like having a nice long run session before you head into a zone versus the other way around.
I don't know. I tipped quick, like burpees. I started and finished, and I never recovered.
Yeah,
that was it. Which means I made it 2-3 stations further than I did with Callie. So that was
you
a
were
great
not
success.
lying on the
Cracked
ground.
after ski hurt.
Bracket,
It's fun.
If I had to describe like the race, it was super fun doing it with you, honestly. Like I love team races, and I think that we couldn't talk a whole lot because like your heart rate's up and stuff, but
You tried. I couldn't get words out.
yeah,
I just
I got a
ignored you.
lot of thumbs up and like sideways hand, like let's not push the pace here. But I think we communicated well when we needed to and stuff, and it was an overall good experience.
Rich, Jack and I are both, we'd like to consider ourselves on the cerebral end of athletes.
Mhm.
If only that means that we spend a lot of time telling ourselves we're cerebral. And so we worked out what we were going to do, how we're going to talk, how we're going to transition. We come into skier and
How you
the
think
very
step one
first
went?
handoff, I stepped the wrong way. First one. You're not even tired yet. I blew the
Exit
first
to the
one.
right. No, I'm not gonna do that. I'm
You guys
gonna
had
exit to the left.
too many plans. Too many plans. Something like a ski erg, I feel like it's like, we'll switch, and however we switch is how you switch.
We're just same as you as I. You always exit right, like the freeway, and I went left.
Yeah, I'm traffic engineer right here. You got to exit on the right. Come on.
Oh man, race brain.
Yep,
race brain early.
Bracken, and Rich also. I will say I was pretty surprised given how little running I've done in like the past 5 months that I could actually, hold a decent pace. And we weren't flying. We were only going like 615, 620 pace or something like that when you break it down and stuff. But you can ask Bracken. I think there were several times where I'm like, "You want to crank it up?" And he's like, "Let's just stay right here." Not to
I pretended
the bus again,
but if you hold that, say for like DecaFit, which is coming up, like if you hold 6-minute pace,
18:30 is good,
and that's going to be perfect. Like that's
then get in a 13 flat. Suddenly, at worst a 31:30, which is a PR for me at that point. Like I feel like I can do that.
That's awesome.
And Jack was accelerating into the rock zone. Yeah, like I was blown away. I was really impressed with your fitness. It was cool to watch.
That's great.
So I know what it's like to come off injury, and you've done it the right way. But our boy Rich, I want to talk about that race. That's what the people want here, because you've been writing checks all season long.
Now he's cashing it.
No.
Yeah, because you have to have been feeling, right? You have to have been feeling that I need a result to justify all these takes I have. Like I keep saying I'm not the whatever ranked person, that these courses are slow and these are fast, and that I have this fitness, and like it's got to feel good to get one.
It feels good to have a race come together, execute it like fairly well. I don't feel like I want to like throw double birds to the world on this, but
I do.
I really don't. Like I just feel like it's definitely gratifying to finish it with a result like this, where I feel like I should be. It's not like, hey, I'm talking this because I think it's because I'm just like blowing smoke or whatever. Like
you are who you thought you were,
more or less, right? And not in a way that's like, see, I told you. It's like more for me, because I was coming into this race not feeling that confident. Like my last couple races, I haven't raced anybody in this, like to the caliber of this field, outside of like Ryan Kent, who's
Eugenio,
a tier above. He's a tier above me, right? So like when I race him, he kills me, and then all the rest in the middle, I have no idea where I'm at. So it's been like 18 months to really race anybody here. So I wasn't feeling like that great. I came into this thinking I was like, I could get 10th and run well, but I ran well and got 5th. So from that perspective, it was like, so now I'm looking at the landscape of the world field, and it's like, okay, there's a tier with say like 5 guys, right? If you're like Kent, Hunter, Alex, and got to throw Rylan in there now, clearly,
and maybe Sandy.
I don't think he can put him there.
He can be there, but he can also crack. Like,
he has his PR is now slower than mine.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? So like,
so you got those 4 or 5. Paleo.
I think I would put Paleo in a tier below
with Rich.
Yeah. You guys are the bridge.
Yeah.
I would say Tobias is the bridge.
Oh, yeah.
And then I think from Paleo to like the 25th
like 20
guys. Guy. Yeah. It could be a shuffle in any order.
Okay.
Like depending on the day. Right.
How'd Madrid go versus Chicago? It's like no one performed the same. Right. Same guys, different results.
There was 3 guys in this race that gave me work. Right. Yeah. And it wasn't the same outcome on our home turf. Right. So that definitely matters. And the course matters for sure as well. But like, I belong. Right. Like I should be in these races, and it's just been such a challenge to get in these freaking races. And I haven't been able to like race. Everything's been time trial. It's been time trial since Vegas last in 2022 or whenever that was. So
yeah,
it feels good to be able to race and to actually show up.
Was this one of the more satisfying results that you've ever had?
I don't feel like I put together a full race. There's probably like 5 to 7, maybe. I feel
you
like
were in a tough spot where you didn't get to race anyone after the 3rd station?
After broad jumps, yeah.
You were in no man's land, which is scary. You were executing well, but you don't get that feedback, that boost of, all right, I'm gaining, or I'm separating, or I've halved. You just had to sit and just hope you didn't get caught while trying to run someone down who's doing really well.
It's
That's
also
a tough
doing
spot
well.
to be in.
And every time I would come
Rich-
across,
yeah.
I think Jack, was sometimes giving me,
I was screaming at you on the sidelines with the
like giving me
splits.
time feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think Marcus
12
was
seconds.
doing it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it was like you're 48 seconds back from play, and the next time I was like you're 53 seconds back. It's like,
Yeah.
shit. And then it kept
And
being
one-
like around the same, and I'm like, he's not fading.
Yeah.
No.
Paleo, I would see you come around the corner on the far end, and Paleo, I don't know if you could see him because that home stretch was that back stretch was so long. I was like, he's like a minute and two ahead of you, but he's there, like just out of sight.
I know,
But
just out of sight.
Yeah.
And I get to the station, he'd just be like a little bit further in
Yeah.
front than I'd want. He'd come out like about, like that, like
Mhm.
a minute on the rower
yeah.
is 100 meters or whatever.
No,
Right.
it's more than that.
More than that. More than
About
that.
300, 250
No.
to 300.
300?
Yeah.
You
A
doing a
minute on the
10-minute
rower?
row?
It's 20. It's 20 seconds. It's about 20 seconds for,
Here's our
100
Hyrox
meters.
guy.
Yeah. So
Right.
3 minutes.
Yeah, 300
meters.
which is a lot on a row. You know,
Mhm.
you're like, oh man, he's already off my 700.
Yeah.
And same on the farmers. Like he would just be out. He put it down once. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Maybe he's put it down before. And I think he only put it down once and then was still out maybe 60 to 80 meters before me.
Rich,
Yeah.
I thought you were about to collapse into the ground on that last like 4 feet of your farmer's carry.
Oh
I
my
was like,
God.
oh, he is hanging on with a shoestring right now.
I don't want to
Like,
be that guy who like drops the kettlebells, but there was no other option.
Yeah.
It was just like I had
you're
Kent was like,
I'm out.
I don't know if you saw
Yeah.
Kent, he was like kind of curling
Yeah.
underneath the
Mhm.
thing, trying to hold it up.
Yeah.
It's hard on that grid.
It's
going
a
back
helpless
and forth.
feeling
Yeah.
knowing that like I might come up a few steps short.
Yeah.
I don't need a
Yeah.
break, but I can't make it.
So yeah, overall I feel really good about finishing where I finished. I feel even better about it. Like I finished the race, right? And I'm like, okay, this is a better time than I've had. So this is going to jump me a little bit up in the Elite 15 rankings. And
And
it's
the
like
top
tied,
20 also.
it's like tied with Dylan,
Mhm.
right? Like I don't know how that would do a tiebreaker or if it goes down to the tenths or whatever. And I'm like, this doesn't really mean that I'm going to have another opportunity. I'm like, I might not be in any other Elite 15 race for the rest of the season. So from that, I was kind of like bummed. I was like happy that I was like, okay, great. Like this is a good result to where I wanted to be, but I might not get another shot. So I was like, what's going to happen to these times when the year turns, right? Like, cause this has all of the times from the calendar year in 2023. It's like, if the calendar turns and then all of a sudden the 2022-23 season times are gone, then I might be in a good spot. Then it might be like 6th or 7th. And I might find myself into a major come DC or whatever. Then I find out I receive a roll down for all of the major qualifiers because Kent and Ronkovich already had an automatic roll down for all the qualifiers. So
And
they're
this is the
handing
thing we hadn't heard about.
yeah.
that, yeah.
There's no roll down on slots and there's no roll down on slots. But if they have this roll down, if they have this slot, now there's a roll down.
It's
There's
like
a championship and then there's the time and there's not a roll down between the two, but there is if they overlap.
the way they came into this, they were going to hand out 3 qualifiers for the World Championship and also 3 qualifiers for every other open or every other major.
We were going to
They're
have 12 people in due to the majors and then 3 from the last chance qualifiers, basically.
For the World Championships is what
Yes,
how they're
correct.
kind of think potentially, right? Whatever. But I didn't realize that the 2 were independent, like the 3 that they were handing out for
Right.
World Championships and the 3 that they're handing out for the automatic bids were different. It
Yeah.
never crossed my mind, not once. Not
I
once.
thought
during the
we'd even
race.
discussed it, that it wasn't different. And then it was.
Because I was like, does that make any sense? Like, is that something? Like, I guess it doesn't need to be precedent for everything. We always like search for precedents. Like, does this make like, where is the example of this? But that they're handing that down is extremely beneficial for me.
Mhm.
Like, that's amazing. Like, I was going to go to Dallas and do an individual again to try to better my time. I really didn't want to do that, especially post race. And now I don't have to. Now I could just put all my eggs in one basket for DC, have a huge lead up, and that will be where it is. But I can just like, and and it was just like a relief. But it doesn't mean like it's good for me, but it doesn't. I don't think it's good for the system, though.
Well, the system you rallied against was that they don't care about new athletes, you'd say.
Yes.
They just want names that they can have there every time to build their storylines. And now you benefited from it because you showed up to the first one and you competed well. It punishes the people who didn't show up because suddenly we realize in retrospect, you had to be at this first one.
Almost.
Because now you've punched your ticket. You're just there. Whatever you want, now you have it. It's like a season pass you just won. But if you didn't come to it, now it's like there's not many slots left here.
Someone like Colin Stiefert, who him and Anas later on ran amazing times, like 58, 15 or something like that.
14,
like 58,
34,
34, which would put them in or around the Elite 15. I think he is in it now. So let's just look at this. So Colin is now 13th.
He is. Colin is. Yeah.
Colin's now 13th. Chances of him getting a faster time than that are very low because this is the fastest time on U.S. soil that has ever existed and ever will exist, right? Like this was a Hong Kong style course, I think. With the new carpets and the
didn't Kenton Hunter go faster?
Well, I mean, yeah, but
no,
on Kenton Hunter
in Chicago. Oh, you said it was the fastest in U.S. soil.
Yeah, I bet if you took
at a non-championship.
Oh, okay.
Not for the top.
I thought you meant it was a record. I was misinterpreting it.
Yeah, it's more like across the board. Like
okay.
This is going to be the fastest.
This is the venue to do it at. It's
this before this race, only 2 Americans have been under 58 in the U.S., right? Or under 59. I think only 3 people.
Yeah.
On U.S. soil.
Is this like Monaco for the track and field world where it's like you want to run on this track because everyone's going to run fast?
Well, you do if we get this carpet scenario again.
Yeah.
And what it showed in the past is you take away the long straights and you give us the normal carpet, and it's a fast U.S. course and an average world course. Now it's a fast course.
Yes. I think this would have been similar to Hong Kong, honestly. Like that time is now, because James Kelly got his time in Hong Kong is 58:30 something. And Colin here is 58:14. That was a big jump for James. This is a massive jump for Colin. I would consider them pretty similar in terms of an athlete. I'm kind of in that boat as well. This is a PR for me. Also, grid's a little bit different, but anyway. So now
they reset them and they did not run grid, correct?
They did not run grid. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
they ran the way you and I did, Bracken.
So they had a big rock zone.
Big rock zone, but the run laps are shorter because of that, and like you don't have the back and forth on things like farmers or lunges or whatever like that.
Yeah. So
let's actually use Anas as this example because he's 17th with a 58:34. If he doesn't, he could get a roll down into Sweden potentially. There's like 2 or 3 races between now and then. One's in Barcelona, and Rylan's not going to be there. Kent's not going to be there. I'm not going to be there. Megita's not going to be there. So there's going to be at least 4 spots to roll down. But if Anas does not take that and they hand out 3 more automatic qualifiers for the rest, then you have to be in like the remaining, like then there's going to be potentially
eventually
11. There will be 11.
15 won't matter.
There's a chance that no one in that DC race will qualify on time. It will just be automatic qualifiers.
Yeah.
So my question for you, and obviously like we talked 2 days ago and it was, I think I'm going to do Dallas, and now it's, I'm not going to do Dallas. I'm set. But now having only had, 36 hours to think about it, why wouldn't you go and do every major?
Now I think I will do every major.
So you will.
I won't do Stockholm because of DECA. But
that's right. That's right.
Yeah, I was like, you're bailing on DECA.
That's the same weekend.
I'm in the DECA strong now. I gotta go.
Yeah.
I'm in there.
Defend that podium.
But Vienna, I'll go.
Good.
Right. And that's almost like keeping, this sounds kind of absurd, but almost like keeping people out like Paleo, who are like people that are in this roll down scenario who could pop, like, or like a Colin or an Anas, right? Them not being in the races.
Wait, explain the Paleo.
So like if Paleo didn't get this roll down, right, I would have gotten 4th in that race. Like like it's now
Oh, right.
it's now
You're a paleo, not paleo.
a paleo.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay, I misunderstood you.
So for that example, right? Like using an ass as an example, like
He was the last in, and only because he lived in the city where the race was.
Yeah.
they screwed something up where they thought Ruben Patino was going to come, and Ruben said he can't, and they thought he said he could, and so they just like put him in. That's why we drafted him, and then they realized that he's not coming, and they reached out to like Chris Woolley and all these international athletes, and like,
Yeah, come from Australia on a day's notice.
It's like Tuesday.
Yeah. He couldn't even get here in time.
No. Players there. He's like, I'm in. Count me in here. And he's just on fire, dude.
Yeah.
He's just crushing. So
you go, and it's a business decision from both sides, because A, it protects your future interests, and B, they're paying deep enough that you can conceivably make back at least half your costs. And then if you have sponsors help you out, like you can break even on a decent day.
Totally. And if they are, it is beneficial for the individuals to show up, especially if they do have that idea of like, we need to create stories. We need to have like a narrative from the previous race to the next race. So like, it's advantageous for me to be there in terms of a brand.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I'm going to go. I'm going to go to the other two.
The other advantage for you can kind of test out what happens when you go to Vienna, like your prep leading into world championships, because you're going to have to travel once again back to France. You'd rather get all the screw ups out of the way for that and figure out all the timing. Like, do you get there on a Tuesday, you get there on a Thursday? Like, how much, is a night flight better than a morning flight? You figure out all those things and whatever works, so that way you can dial it in for Worlds.
Flights to Vienna in February too. I don't think many people are going to Austria in February. They're like not. They're like, I paid as much to go to Dallas next weekend as I'm going to pay to go to freaking Vienna.
Yeah. And you know what? You're at the beginning of a sport. The sport is starting. This is like when NBC came to Spartan, right? It's starting to try to say we are a sport. Look at our pro athletes, and who are the athletes from that era that got highlighted?
Black and Crocker.
Well, I mean, for example, that's one. But like the people from that era,
Hunter,
all have a name now.
Yep.
Like,
big
let's just use me because I'm the best example for what I'm trying to say.
Because you're the best.
Yeah. I would not, if they did that now in 2019 through 23, I wouldn't be top 10 in most of these races. Like, it's not, I have a role in this industry because NBC kept putting me on live streams. That's the only reason, really. And I capitalized on it.
It helps your role, your brain, and your personality are another reason why, Bracken. Let's not
True,
say.
but if I was taking 25th place,
it would have been harder.
No one would. Yeah. And so everyone who they're promoting, whether you deserve it, and I'm not saying I deserved it back then, because they were way better people than me, but they need someone to promote. And so anyone right now who's getting Puma and Hyrox behind them needs to take advantage of it, because we don't even know what this means 10 years from now, but we do know that nothing's guaranteed. And if there are TV spots now and advertising spots now and social media and sponsor spots now, you have to take them, because like whatever door it leads to is the big thing. It's not being on TV now. It's what door opens, and you're in position to take that. And that's like, it's so gratifying from the outside to watch it happen for you, because you've worked and worked and worked. And then there's a moment that just solidified your next year, and you were able to take it
and didn't even know. And that was probably just like my mindset going into it was, I could get third, I could get 10th. I just need to run the race that I need to run and just be in the race. If it did have all this other weight associated with it, I don't know if it would have gone the same way, because that's how all these freaking races have been leading up to it. So I just happened to benefit off of this system now, where it was really not in my favor the past year. This year, things have kind of flipped, and now it's going to be really hard for everybody underneath that 15 line. Like a dude like Sandy, he's 20th right now. Like he might
conceivably
be
top 3 in the world
years ago,
potentially.
Yeah. He could be where I was, or someone like Colin, or like Dylan's 21st, dude. Like, that's not great.
What do you think Hyrox HQ is thinking? Like, seeing these results versus, when a lot of similar athletes were in Madrid earlier this year, and they're like, oh boy, this is a lot different than it's not going according to chalk.
It's good.
No, it's good.
It's good. You can't have only Europeans. You can't have only US. It's good that there's a mix. And Hunter's not currently doing things And so we don't even have anything close to like a villain or a fork in the road. Rich is that next person.
Woo.
He's the only one that's made waves verbally. So I think they love it. You got to have someone, even though Rich isn't like a dick when he talks. Like, he's the only one moving the needle verbally. So they like it.
My point on that, what do you think they're thinking when they see 4 U.S. athletes competing in this on the men's side? We're talking about the men's race right now.
They don't think anything.
4 out of 15. It's like, it's still a flawed system. And then you see other athletes from U.S. soil running faster later in the day. It's like, they've got to realize that it's still flawed. They're not going to do anything, but you've got to realize it.
It's perfect for them. Every city they go to, those local boys do great. Like, that's the best thing they can have. Yeah, I think. Have the local nation have a great day. That's all you can ask for.
Yeah, and they're not that concerned with the sports side of things, man. They're not looking at it like, let's analyze these results the way that we do.
Yeah.
They're just kind of like, okay, this guy, what's his last name? His last name's Ryan, or is that his first name is Ryan? He has a Q now next to his name. So
yeah, sure.
He's like,
they're
that's
closer than we've ever had a sport be. Like, what brand, what company has tried to make a sport more professional than they're trying? Like, yeah, it's not the way we, the athletes, would run it.
Yeah, right.
For the athletes, but like from an outside brand, asking your shoe size prior, trying to compote, like they're doing things that in their mind is totally built for the athletes.
Oh yeah, I'm not bashing that part at all. I'm just talking about the qualification results versus expectations type of thing. That's what I'm picking apart.
From a marketing side of things, yeah, I think that they're doing a good job of that, Bracken, right? And that's basically what I've been pushing against the whole time. Like, this doesn't need to be like the Spartan NBC style of marketing the athletes, where it is like, hey, let's look what we have here. Look at how good this is. Like, blah, blah, blah. It's like, let's make this a sport because it's easy to consume. It's easy to watch. It's easy to figure out. Like, it's quantifiable. Like, it's racing. You know, it's straight up just easy, but they're trying, like, yes, I think that they think that they're doing what's in the best interest of the athletes, but their scope of the athletes is small, right? It's not 50 deep, it's 15 deep. Like, that's what they want. That's what they think the athletes want anyway. And the ones in the 15 do. I think this system fucking rules.
Right. And I think
in
that's
2023.
Yeah. It creates a vacuum. Everyone wants to get up into it. And everyone outside of it feels like a second-class citizen. And everyone in it feels like the freaking man. And I think that's how sports are. Like, the disparity between AAA and Major League Baseball is enormous in terms of what the benefits are for being there. And it's not fair. There are guys who toil away in the minors for years knowing I'm better than that guy, but I don't. Why? That's what sports is. It's why people will kill themselves to get there. And so from that perspective, like, this is a pro sport.
Yeah. 41st ranked or 40 at the CrossFit Games. Like, you're that last person out. Not really a huge talent gap right there, but the benefits and the recognition is unreal. The difference.
Yeah. True. Yeah. Like, but if they can widen the scope a little bit more, like, to allow, like, you're talking about baseball, there's 3 farm systems underneath to allow people to rise. And in CrossFit too, they have the world wide open. Everybody can participate. Like, you almost can't, like, there's very small levels of participation to get to the top for this. Yeah, and that's my problem.
This still does come back real quick, Jack, to that idea of earning your way in. Like, at this venue, you had 2 people do an outrageous time that you could compare to other people at the venue and say, all right, you 2 have been qualified up to like the next major B heat, and you will get the same course they got. And if you go there and do it, now you're into the next. Like, there could be, like Rich says, a graduation system. And you're seeing that people are deserving now. So that's probably the next step, is what is that tiered system like to get in outside of, like, kind of just luck out with some process.
This is very lucky.
That's very similar to what I was going to go on, Bracken. So I think what would be nice is during the regular season major events is you still have the Elite 15. And the benefit of being in the Elite 15 is that you get to be grouped up with, in theory, the fastest people that day. So you're probably going to run a faster time because you get dragged along. And, you know, there are just benefits of running with faster people. But I still think every once in a while in track and field, you see someone from the slow heat just do something ridiculous and they advance. And even if they're not with the best competition, sometimes, like we saw it in the World Track and Field Championships earlier this year, they had some woman from like Estonia just go off in the 5K. She's like, I'm gonna make it on my own. I have to solo this, but she advanced to the the finals, knowing that her heat probably wasn't gonna do anything outrageous unless she did something ridiculous to make it. So I think that having that next group go, whether it's 10 minutes before or 10 minutes after the main Elite 15 heat, you at least give people the chance to earn that qualification spot in similar style, I guess. So I would have the second heat personally for the Anastas and the Collins and stuff. And then if they do end up running a faster time, like put Colin ahead of you. No, I know it sucks for your position, Rich, but it's like he ran a faster time at the end of the day. So
different course. If they have to be on the same course.
I know. No, yeah. Give them a grid system is what I'm saying. I'm saying have 30. That's a fair, like a next B heat with 15 people. You can't do it for like 1,000 people, but 2 groups of 30 for the borderline people who just showed up. I think that's more fair.
My parents came to this weekend and watched all of it and stayed the whole time. You were doing your thing. They were.
I met them. Meet them.
Yeah,
Jack met him
eventually. Oh yeah. Jack chatted for a while. I heard.
I did.
I'm coming to Milwaukee.
Bracken, real quick. So I also was a babysitter, Rich, because Bracken needed to go and get food, and he went to the parking garage. Yeah, and they
just podium with me last year.
Yeah, they just left Ayla there, and she's funny. I've got to say, you have a funny daughter. You want to know what she said? I brought her on stage because Bracken was gone during the award ceremony. So she accepted the banner and she's like, I'm going to charge my dad $75 if he wants this. And I was like, that's awesome. And
she's an entrepreneur.
Yep. No, absolutely.
It's good pricing too. It's like not so much that you wouldn't pay it. It's a good.
Yeah, it's like 50% of your entry fee. But she also, I was like, oh yeah, do you like doing sports and stuff? She's like, I bet if we took every single kid at this venue here who's my age, I'd beat all of them, even the boys. Yeah. And I was like, there we go. We got that competitive mindset. So she'll be a force.
I like it.
We have 3 different kids and she is that one.
Yeah. She's her.
So my parents were there. And this was their first Hyrox experience, but they've watched the live streams. They've heard me talk about it. And one of their comments was that the air kind of went out of the building after the championship races, and half of it was gone after the men's, because the men's was so dynamic and exciting, and the Meg just got away. And then there were women getting lapped really early on, and my mom's like, it would have been better to have the women first on this one, knowing what we knew about this kind of courses. Like the men's race was a crescendo, but what that kind of struck, like, and we talked all the way back, what it kind of prompted is that you could have this B heat go first and build hype. So you could have like the qualifier on the grid, 5 men, 5 women, something like that, start at the same time, knowing that they're time trialing to set the time for what comes later.
Yeah.
And so they could get, and during this is happening, this is kind of bridges the gap between they're setting up for the grid and getting it done, like start the race, finish setting the grid up as they get there. And you know that these people are just selling out for time, and then they finish and the pro see a time has been set. And so you can't dilly-dally on course. And you know that like, Anas just won 58. We've got to do some work today. And then the crowd now is all there and waiting and hyped up to see these people were impressive. Now let's see the pro version go. It would crescendo nicely that way. But otherwise, like the event died at 2 p.m. And then you have these great performances after that most people didn't stick around to see.
No, definitely not. No.
But to your point, you couldn't have 50 people out there. You'd have to have a select few that you have a chance to set a time. Let's do that. But the pros need to know about it beforehand. They can't go after the pros.
No. Yeah, that'd be an interesting way to kind of be a little bit more inclusive. Let's take a step back here because we're kind of in the minutia of the system again. But let's talk about the actual race itself.
Can you spell that?
Jack?
I don't know if I can spell it.
I definitely can't spell that. No, that's
what's the second letter?
I don't know. Let me just spell check. Let me Google it. Let me ask Google. Ryan Kent.
I'm gonna go because minute, like that means small, so it's probably spelled similarly to that. You take off the E at the end and then an IA at the end. So
what is this, language of origin? Fucking nerd.
Use it in a sentence.
Got him.
It's my quarterback.
I don't care if
quarterback.
I don't care if you can spell. All right, Ryan Kent took that W, 55-12. Rylan Shcadegg with a massive personal best here, 55-46. Alex Ronkovich, no surprise here on the podium, 56-41. Then Paleo Fernandez coming in 30th, fastest time of the qualifying window, finished in 4th, 57-31. I was 5th, 58-48. James Kelly, JK with 59-12. Tim Vinish, 59-44. Dylan Scott, and David Magida, and then Eugenio Bianchi round out the top 10.
Bianchi. I was
Bianchi.
told that. Yep.
Oh, because you screw up his first name, now you got to come at me with the last name pronunciation. I don't buy it. You don't
Hey, Eugenio.
Go ahead. He'll listen. Yeah. Luca told me that.
I drafted him, and that's why.
I went up to him like, hey, next week we're going to be talking about this. Is it Bianchi or Bianchi? And he's like, Bianchi. And I was like, all right, I'm going to correct it if they say it wrong.
And you did.
Thanks. It's continuing education for us. We're bettering ourselves.
Yeah. Hey, right there, I just gave you a spelling lesson. I was 6th place in the 2000 Massachusetts spelling bee. So,
congrats.
Yeah,
but you're in a 29-minute 5K, so suck it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. What was your 5? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you could keep up with that 29-minute 5K this past weekend, Bracken.
5K? Yeah, I could have.
No, barely.
Okay. It depends if like
an anchor.
Every K you have to spell a word, like a pump and run for the fucking dorks.
Yeah, instead of Hyrox.
All right. So seeing Ryan Kent out there, I mean, we knew he was in good shape. First pick in our draft. And by the way, Jack took the W in the draft.
Yeah, we got to do that. Yeah.
What's the total? What's the total now? What's our season standings?
10-6, Rich. 9-7, me. And I don't even know Bracken. He's like 4-12 or something.
I'm
bad.
completing this under protest. That whole draft was a mockery of the system. The whole Palio thing.
You had Palio, didn't you?
Yeah, I was like, he's on your team.
Yeah, but it threw off the whole feng shui of my team.
I drafted Michaela.
Bracken, you had 2 people in the top 6 on your team.
Thank you.
Like I had 5. Rich had 4. I mean, we even throw you Paleo. It's not going to change things.
So Lauren Smith, she's a sideline analyst reporter, I guess, for CrossFit, and she was the one in the booth for the coverage. Her and Greg Williams over at Rock's Life, they were doing the commentary, and so she's from the CrossFit space, but she's an absolute professional. She's great. She like sat down, made time to talk with everybody, get a story from every person who was there. And knowing she was coming from CrossFit, I sent her the draft that we did. Just be like, hey, like an hour 15 and we start drafting, whatever might be some insight in this world. And when I met her at the event, she's like, you drafted yourself 5th, and like was kind of like, no chance that's gonna happen. It's like, you're ranked 14th. I was like, that's fine.
I'll show you.
And then I saw her after. I was like, listen, that was objective analysis. Okay. And it shows with the results. Nothing but objective analysis over here.
Kent went first, Meg went second. Right there. We got it. We know what we're talking about.
We got it. So objective analysis coming through on Race Pain Podcast always.
She give you your flowers?
Yeah. She mentioned Race Brain on the coverage a couple of times.
Okay.
She was throwing out all the different brands. She mentioned Deca. She mentioned Rylan doing Spartan Grease trifecta. So
she's a straight up professional. She's like really good at this stuff, and she's gonna most likely be the one doing the commentary forward. So she's gonna have those stories to kind of tell and recall,
which we need. We need that in the booth.
They had a volume issue on the men. Who was it?
It was Greg.
Greg, yeah, from UK. Yep.
Like the production of it all was a little like they took ownership of how it wasn't good because it was produced by them. But yeah, that's a tough venue to do. Like they had cameras die, they had some connection issues. There was definitely some production on the back end that like wasn't leveled out the volume. Like there was absolutely some audio issues. Wasn't great, but it was better than what we typically get, which is nothing.
And our sport has been dying for like a stable tentpole female in the booth. Need it. Someone that can speak to both sides of the sport and carry a broadcast.
She's great. So I'm happy that they're investing there. They might need to figure out how to move some of that investing elsewhere to up the level of production, just like in terms of organization. It kind of seemed like there was just some things, right? Like they had the camera, they had a stationary camera that was looking at the entire grid, but it was pointed toward the first 3 lanes. It's like, okay, just like move it, change the orientation and tilt it the other way so you can see all 15 lanes. So like that would happen. They would run out and leave, and then like they could have split screened it a couple times to stay on the grid and stay on the, like it. I mean, I don't know because it's not something that I did. I'm not going to say I know, but they weren't very happy with it.
I could tell you I wouldn't have volunteered to rabbit if they needed one. I was not going to be able to keep up with any of those ladies or guys later.
They had a little cart rolling around.
So we learned some things about the men this weekend. We have yet to see Kent win a dogfight. When Kent's on it, he's on it and he crushes people. And when he gets caught, it's generally when he's cracking. Kent had his hands full with Rylan, and Kent rose to the challenge. And honestly, even though he kept having Rylan throw surges at him, he never looked bothered. He was Kent who was on one. He just happened to have like this person that was also on one next to him and was just throwing crazy surges against all odds. But Kent just handled his business. And it's the first time we've seen him like with people around him on the way to a win. And that shows that he's got that. That was a question mark for him. And he answered it.
Do you want to know when I knew Kent was going to win? When he got off sled push and he just like hulked up. He just like did his usual finish line celebration. And that was like in the middle of the race, 2 stations in, and he's like, let's go. And then he just took off.
That's like Hunter stuff.
Yeah.
And I knew he was going to win.
Yeah.
After like 3 wall balls.
Oh yeah. You didn't give it. You hadn't given it to him by then.
But coming into it, he probably had it. But it was Rylan closed on the second to last run again.
Yeah.
Rylan, he made it a race again late. It was not over.
No, I'm not trying to disrespect Rylan because his surges, his running, like Deca, that whole championship weekend, he is gonna be a problem.
Yeah,
like that you're not gonna.
He's basically running his like, is this his Deca pace for Hyrox?
Yeah, like he's so fit. That was such an impressive breakout race. But I was just speaking on behalf of Kent there. I was like, he's not losing right now. He is so amped and confident at the moment.
You can't imagine
he had it. It was just, what can Rylan do?
Yeah. His time, Rylan's total run time, some of this is screwed up. And the rock zone, we like on the grid, they don't pick up rock zone. So like the times on the splits within the stations themselves are a little inflated, and there's no like rock zone, this and that, whatever. But he was 1 minute and 5 seconds faster than the second fastest runner, which was Paleo.
And Paleo was moving. You visually watched Paleo, and it was like, this guy's moving. You looked good, Rich. You looked nice and smooth. So, but Rylan, without question, just looking at it, the eye test, it was like, this is the fastest mover out here right now in this course, and it's not even close.
Kent was actually probably the second or third fastest, but his run time's a little screwed up. They screwed up his lunges into the. Let's take off like 2 or 3 minutes here.
I felt bad for Ronk. He's running a great race, and he had to watch someone ahead of him consistently like hit the NOS. He just like Rylan kept juicing it on every run. It's so hard to watch someone just blast away from you when you know everyone should be hurting right now. Does he have the best compromise running in the game?
Yes.
Is it close anymore?
I don't think it's close.
Rylan?
I mean, you can't
maybe
probably because Kent's high end. I mean, I don't think those two are that dissimilar when it comes. If they were on a road 5 or 10K, I don't think it's that 10 seconds, 15 seconds difference.
I would give it, after what we saw in Greece, hanging with a 65-minute half marathoner, Gregory Basilico, and then what we saw him this past week, it's got to be Rylan.
But it's compromised.
I know that.
His mod, I don't know what he has available.
I almost gave him my shirt because he's so good at mod.
Hand him that mod shirt. Get him tattooed. It's sponsored.
My shirt.
I know. That's why I didn't give it to him. It would have been stealing.
That'd been strange. So yeah, I think no doubt, like he is the best compromised runner that we've maybe ever seen. I mean, Hunter obviously as well, because his high end is probably his high end is probably not much faster. VJ is another good one too. We haven't seen him in this hybrid yet.
Stuff like there are a lot up there. He's in that first echelon. Like he's very worthy of the first overall pick in terms of compromised ability.
Yeah.
Atkins is an interesting one because he is very good at it, but he also can run in the mountains with mountain runners.
Yeah.
Like he's not the fleetest of foot in the mountains, but he enters sky running and he does well. And he enters So I don't know. I guess, but so does Rylan.
Right.
Flat ground though would be interesting to have the top 20 Hyrox athletes all race, like just a 10K.
Just 10K. Yeah, I agree. And I don't think
Rich is like, all right, I'll come out first.
I'm gonna give him all that work.
Yeah.
And be like, you know what, this means nothing, but it means something to me. But I don't think Ryan, because Kent is in very good run shape right now. Probably the best run shape we've seen him.
Really?
Yeah, for sure. So
Also looked big.
he's not.
No,
Muscular.
No, he's skinny as well. He's
got that Atkins look. It
but
looks big on camera, but not in person.
Yeah, muscularly, he's lean, but his weight isn't that. He's not over 185.
Really?
Yeah. So he was in definitely the best run shape that we've seen him. But the way that Rylan was racing, I had a question for you guys on this. Is it advantageous for him to be as aggressive as he is being on these runs, especially early? Like, it seemed like he needed to be winning on every single run. Like, you saw him like kind of make moves, like press around people and like get in front of them. And he's obviously fast from start to finish, but his first and second runs are way faster than the rest of his runs. The rest of his runs aren't slow, but is that an advantage to have? Like, is that a tactic to just be in the race and just to be assertive and aggressive? Or is it just a matter of like needing to let the race kind of play out a little bit more?
What we've seen from, we're all runners, right? We're all track guys at heart.
Yeah.
What we've seen at the highest end is that you can't play around with surges, even if you're the best in the world.
Right.
Like, even just watching Jakob, and in a world championship, if he gets his first 600 wrong, he'll lose. Like, you can't mess around with it at the highest level. And we know that Rylan's messing around with it, but he seems to be like, he seems to feed off of effort. Like, when he's on it, when his pedal's down, he finds more gas. And so there is that piece to it. But I agree with you. I think he can be even better when he smooths out some of his like throttle blips early. Because there were some times he could have like save until the next turn and then just get him on the straightaway, and he didn't.
Right.
So maybe it's just like mentality wise, I'm okay burning matches because it keeps me in my, like, I have all my armor on, dead ahead, I'm fighting. Like, it might be better for him, but physiologically, he has a better race in him.
I agree. I think that's something that Meg had struggled with in the past. Not necessarily struggle, but she would want to be winning the race. Like, she didn't want people around her who she didn't feel like that was in the same caliber of her, even in the beginning, right? Like, so it was always like pressing. And this past race at Chicago, we'll touch on, she just was like, this is what I'm running. I'll be where I need to be when it's time to go. And when it's time to go, I'll have something to get there. And yeah, I think that's just maybe a little bit more race experience, even though, dude, Rylan's races a ton, but like, or maybe it is just, yeah, he'd rather have the lead and just feels better there.
If we're making an OCR comparison, when have we ever seen Nicole go out slow? Never. But when do we see Lindsay go out fast? Not often either, but they kind of, you know, they'll end up being pretty close to each other at the end of the race, despite their start strategy. And I don't know. I think Rylan, it just has that front runner mentality.
We also might be seeing a world-class engine in aerobic capacity and anaerobic capacity that is slowed on stations by just like pure strength. Like, he might be surging at a lower capacity than everyone else. Maybe. Like, he might be blipping from like 85 to 88 where people are sitting at 88. Yeah. He might be running still within himself, and he's just running into a limiter on certain stations. And that's why he can surge every time, because he's surging up to the effort that other people, because we can't tip over. No matter how talented you are, like, you can't fight physiology. So he's clearly not tipping. So maybe he's just like, his visual aggressiveness is tricking us. He might not be running at his capacity, or it's just like, he's running fine. He's just like, those surges are within him. He just gets stuck at a few stations behind Kent that he's a little slower on.
Maybe. And he can come out and still do
like,
it.
I'm fresh. I just couldn't do it faster. Now I got to get back to work.
Yeah.
Which is wild to think.
Yeah. I'll accept that. So yeah, he was extremely impressive and a massive PR here. And again, just kind of asserting himself into that top tier of the world here in Hyrox. And what can you say about Alex, man? Alex Ronkovich just shows up, is aggressive, skis like a maniac, crushes the sleds like a maniac.
He's going 139, 140 on the ski. I was right behind them.
Yeah, he said he got in there, was doing like 136. And I was like, okay. Dude, what?
He was. I was right there.
So he and that's, I mean, this is how the Europeans typically race. And I think that, and generally when it comes to appropriate broad jumps is where that all kind of catches up to the Europeans. And we did see that at this race here. He kind of came out a little bit slower. He's still, I mean, he's solid across the board. His lowest finishing position within a station was 4th, right? So it's not like it
So
killed
crazy.
him. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like that was where he kind of like lost contact within this race.
He's old reliable though. He had enough of a gap on 4th that there was no question he was going to make the podium. And it was like, oh, is this going to catch up to Rylan? We've never seen him do like in a Hyrox hang on at this point. He had some rough wall balls last time. Is he going to fade against the 4 or 5 time world championship podium finisher Alex? But yeah, I think he just asserted himself once again on that top tier.
Yeah, so he already punched his ticket, and I don't think this was necessarily an A race for him. So now he's going to be at Worlds, and he's done this a bunch of times now, and I'm sure the World Championship is what his goal is for this season. So it's happy to see him already kind of have that out of his way and be able to kind of focus on where he needs to be.
That right there, not being the A race, is the scariest part of him and Rylan to me. Is that 2 of the top 3 guys? Like Alec at least prepped for this. Alex at least prepped for this.
Right.
What did Rylan do? Like, where does he squeeze this all in? We don't know how much of his time he even like dedicated to this. He improved on his wall balls, and like, did he just put like a 3-week prep in on wall balls? It's kind of scary to know that 2 of the top 3, this should not be their ceiling, or even close.
Right. And then outside of that, so I guess it is worth talking about the sleds. The sleds moved really, really well. We've been alluding to how this course was fast, but these sleds were the fastest American sleds that I've ever pushed. And I've only pushed a sled in Spain, and that didn't go well for me. So these were way easier than that. So
did anyone have a bad sled? I didn't look at a breakdown, and just being there wasn't much struggle.
There were some people that took a lot of breaks, and the breaks got longer and longer.
I did look up, and Rich, you took an early break, and I was like, oh no, I thought these sleds were fast because Kent was just motoring with it. Everyone else was, but I think it was strategic. And
that was my plan.
You got out of there very, very quickly. I think you were like right behind Dylan and Magita, like right at that point. And I think it was good pacing.
Yeah, that was just gonna be the plan either way. I was gonna try to break twice in each direction.
Yeah.
Where I didn't necessarily have to, but still came out of that in 308, which is about as fast as
That's a good sled.
Typically push it. And
unrelated, but I just got a text. Lisa's on a run. I swear to God, I just saw a bobcat.
Oh no!
What happened? That's a big moment.
Is she talking about construction vehicle?
Oh, that's an exciting moment.
Yeah,
nice.
Seeing something like that on the trail.
Yeah,
I went to look up Hyrox sled splits, and she texted.
Yeah, I got them. I already got them up, dude.
Oh, you got them all up?
I can share that screen for you.
I've never seen a bobcat, so that actually is pretty cool.
Yeah, they're rare. Skittish.
Saw so coyote last night, but
oh really? I don't like that at all. So yeah, Ken was like too flat, and these are, and again, the rock zones within a grid. It's not so like, I think it adds about 20 seconds to in and out. So he probably pushed this in 140, right? Like that's Hong Kong-esque.
Why is Dylan 5th?
Dylan wasn't break.
This is sled push order. Okay, sorry, it's yeah. I was looking at the right column, not the sled push. My bad.
So, and yeah, Rylan was the top 3 guys had the fastest pushes, right? And then Paleo was right there with those guys, so I think that pushed him along as well, just because he was in that race. And then the guys who didn't push it that well were international guys. Magita looked to be pretty conservative there as well, but yeah, like over.
He said it wasn't easy for him.
Yeah, I mean, I know that's been an issue where of his rehab. He needs to, like, his back, like that extension for push through the hips isn't super comfortable for him.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you look at these guys like in Spain. I think Eugenio, his push was 220, and then he was 319 here, and like Graham Holiday. I'm sure he's been in 220s.
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan Wynn, he was also like 230, I think, in Spain. He was 324 here. So I just like I don't know. And like that was something I had Alex on the podcast for RMR, and he was kind of kept alluding to this course being like good for runners. And I think because of fast sleds and because of long straightaways.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't make sense for fast sleds. It shouldn't make a runner's course shouldn't make people who are non-runners slower. It's faster for everybody.
On paper, yeah. But I think this is a case of people who came into it a little slower, knowing this is where I go, and watching people work super fast.
Yep.
Like when your strength suddenly gets matched by someone else's, it reduces your confidence in your strength. And you don't use your strength as well when you're not the one moving. It's like a great kicker getting kicked past. Suddenly, like 5 people catch them. The only difference was like they lost their mojo. And I think that really plays in on the sleds, knowing that I have this one huge weapon I bring and suddenly gets pushing too flat. Like, what do you even do with that? By the time Graham got in, Kent was probably already done with an entire length, and he just watched him on his way into the rock zone not break starting his second one.
Mm-hmm.
That's got to damage you, knowing that, well, what's best case scenario now?
Right. Where am I going to make this up?
Yeah.
So coming in there and that's my take on it as well. It's like the race is what happened to them, not the sleds.
It is the race.
Yeah. It's just like, oh, I'm not where I need to be. Oh, I'm not going to be able to catch up here. Where am I going to catch up down?
If we're just looking at this single station right here, does this just go to show you that doing the sled fast is pretty much the only thing that matters? If you just look at the results right there, like the rest of the race really doesn't matter in the end.
No, I won't
think
say that.
It's the biggest place to make.
But look at it.
Time. Like you like there's such a large discrepancy. It's like the best rower is going to make up what 10 seconds,
5 seconds. Best farmers carry a few seconds. This right here, like top
minutes.
4.
Yeah,
I'm going to say you can't win without it.
Yes,
but just doing this, I mean, you know that, right? Yeah. I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but just doing this well doesn't mean you do well. But you can't do well without it.
Pull. Let's see that.
It's probably pretty similar.
Graham got back on it though.
Yeah, Graham got on.
Yeah, he did.
It's impressive by Dylan. That's great. He had a faster sled pull than push.
That is crazy.
So did Graham.
Yeah.
I was like,
I don't get that.
This sled was moving so well that I was dropping the rope to rest. I was like, I can't, like,
I'm out of breath.
I need to relax here. Like you could move it so easily that there was never there wasn't much urgency on my end.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just like, all right, like I just need to kind of take it back. Like, and in hindsight, I could have been more aggressive on the push and pull and probably gained some time, but that wasn't the plan. And so when this thing was moving, it was like the lightest sled pull. But I'm strong now, dude.
Rich,
I'm so strong.
Go back and do burpee bra. I'm just curious on like these first 4 because I remember ski erg order and let's see.
Oh, look at your boy.
Right. Well, Megiddo went really fast. We saw that, but it seems like push and burpee broad just the eye test during that race. That was a big difference. Wow, Dylan 418 on the, is that right?
I don't think that's right. I was in there with him. He came out a little bit behind me.
Yeah.
He came in like 20 seconds to 30 seconds ahead of Megiddo.
Yeah.
So he couldn't, and Megiddo came out right on his tail.
So maybe he was 250s or 3-ish because he came at the same time. Like Tim and him were there together.
It's 3 flat.
You're not breaking an hour if you go 418 on burpees. No.
There's a bunch, like Jack, we have some of our stuff is off on ours. I think across the board, they had some timing issues.
I
for sure.
will agree with that. Yeah. Okay.
But yeah. I mean, the sled push and pull, like this is where people give back time a lot is the burpee broad jumps. And we did kind of see that a little bit. I mean, this is where I was able to kind of get away from this like mid pack
to have a great burpee broad jump.
Dude, burpee broad jumps are such it's like respiration rate. This is in particular is a spot where altitude to sea level is like, I am not completely gasping for air here.
Yeah.
And I had to slow down on this too, because I was kind of like leaving them behind. I would rest on the ground for a second. I'm like, am I going too fast? I need to like chill out here.
You were definitely moving the quickest, but you also looked like you were taking a lot of breaks. So it's kind of confusing to gauge your pace. It was like, yeah, like you mentioned, you were on the ground a little bit to catch your breath because it looked like you might have been going a little too fast, but clearly you paced it well.
Yeah. So that's another, like maybe had some time here. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like, what am I going to gain? Like 15, 20 seconds between all these things and just.
I think where you lost time, Rich, and I don't know if you heard me yelling at you, you were running basically in lane 3 the whole time on the course. Like you were running outside the white. And I think that could have added up a few times, but that's what I
think
noticed.
it's interesting. It
Didn't
could
even
just
matter.
be correlation, not causation. But
yeah,
I think there are 5 people who would consider themselves OCR athletes in some capacity, and they were all in like the top 7 burpee broad jumps.
Dude, that Joe DeSena attitude. I carry around kettlebells. I was like top 5 in farmers carry too.
Yeah. It's good for you.
STFU. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on the men's side? What else is there really to consider? I mean, I think a big factor here as well is the travel. And this is something that's we're never going to have an even playing field. We aren't full-time professional athletes. So it's not like, oh, well, I'm going to go to Nice, France for 2 weeks and just be immersed in that French culture. Give my bonjour, a little bit of that. You don't know what you know about all that. So it's always going to be hard to be like, to really know how the travel is going to affect people, and the American-based athletes just perform better than the European-based athletes.
If you take the literal same environment, course, all conditions, and just put it in Europe, and then have all of the Americans travel over to Europe and the Europeans stay home and have a shorter trip, we do not have the same order of results.
Right.
No. Even expectation. At this point, it's got to be unnerving for the Europeans to come over and be like, I'm getting an American course. You see with Americans going over there thinking, I'm going to have to race different on a European course. If you just showed up with everyone there and didn't tell them where you were, like if you black bag everyone and take them somewhere and it's like, all right, go run your race, I think you'd see a lot more consistency.
Yeah. And that's why I'm hoping that, like, we saw these fast sleds because of fresh carpet. I'm hoping that is something that is consistent throughout the majors, not because I would prefer lighter sleds, but just to take out the just make it more consistent. Yeah. Like just make, like, this is what we're going to do. You're going to need to have a 2-minute sled push. It's not going to be like a 3-minute sled push and everybody else is doing 4:30 or whatever. Just to keep it consistent across the board. But I don't know. That's what I'm hoping anyway.
What did your carpet cost you from Home Depot?
Like 200 something for 150 square feet.
And so what is that, Jack, for if we had a new grid each time? For all the
times 15 lanes times $200.
Cut that in half because it was 150. Yeah, it was
maybe
probably
25s.
Yeah.
Or 12.5 meter,
okay,
not 25.
Yeah. Not a major expense. Well,
I think I got the nicer stuff too.
Yeah. Okay. They're probably.
I mean, what's the actual cost?
What could it be?
I wasn't paying attention to the numbers enough. Sorry.
Say it's like 125 times 15. Get that time calculator.
About a little under $2,000.
From a production standpoint, you can squeeze that into a budget.
Squeeze that in there.
Yeah.
Squeeze that in there. I think
Rich K has to stay at the W again instead of the Sable.
Hey, that was on your boy's buck. I was confident that I was going to come away with some cash. I was like, I'm staying at the Sable. You know, spend it before I got it. That's what I was thinking. I was like, God, these hotels are so expensive. I better pick up these burpee broad jumps.
I've got to say, Rich, some of the best race performances I've ever had are when I decide not to stay out like 40 minutes away to save $8. Like when I just spend the extra $20 and I'm right across the street from the venue. It's like
the best.
It ends up working out better. So I hear you.
Yeah, totally.
Like I was within like completely unobstructed at the W Lakeshore Marriott or something with Kent. That's where we stayed. But it took 20 minutes to walk there every single time, back and forth. So it's like it was close. Yeah, exactly. The strip is much bigger than you realize.
Terrible. Yeah. Let's move on to the women. Any other points for the men? I guess the next race is going to be Sweden the same weekend as DECA, so we're not going to get a lot of American athletes. Rumor is Hunter will be in Sweden. He's doing something in England, I guess. I don't know. I don't really know. But the word is that he will be in Stockholm trying at that major.
It's a good transition because it looks like all of the U.S. athletes are picking to stay home for DECA World Championships, while the top 2 finishers on the women's side for Hyrox this past weekend are taking the Hyrox side.
They're going.
We gotta give Pelayo his credit.
He's just that
one
guy.
sentence at least. He made it another 2 stations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think his improvement, I think he was 67 in Houston last year. His next race was New York,
67.
was 64. Then I think he was Madrid, 60 flat. Now he's taking 57.30. He's taking off chunks, 2 to 3 minutes
Earning his stripes.
every race. He sticks his nose in it.
He does. Yeah. And the results across the board, even looking at the pro heat this time versus I went back and looked to 2020 when I ran, it was Hunter, Kent, like Alexander Nicholas.
Isaiah, I think, was right out there, right?
Isaiah wasn't there in that one, but it was Cole Schwartz, myself. Kent was 62 that day.
Mm-hmm.
You know how many people beat 62 this weekend?
Almost everybody.
Even like the open pro heat. You had first timers running 62.
Yeah.
It's like
Paul Fitzpatrick.
this sport
was
is
like
so different now. It is outrageous. I ran 70 minutes on the head there and was 5th place in a battle for 4th and 3rd.
Right.
That stuff doesn't happen.
No.
That's crazy how much that's only 3 years, this jump.
Yeah.
That's what you say, though, right, BK? 3 years of a sport, 3 years of training, figure it out.
I mean, does it, not to transition or pivot totally, but does that make people realize like how Wild West it was for OCR back in the day? Like in the early years, it's like, look how stacked it is now. It used to be like Hyrox of old where you could just show up, you have a pulse, and then you're a little bit fitter than everybody and you're going to podium. Not anymore.
Yeah. Think of that statement. I came into wall balls with a chance for 3rd place and I ran 70 minutes. There's no world that happens in. If that happened in a race, Rich would dump all over that race.
It'd be outside in Miami. Yeah.
And this was a race with Hunter and Kent at the front.
Right.
It's just wild. Different world. All right. On to the women.
On to the women. On the women's side, Meg Jacoby takes that W, 60-18. Lauren Weeks was second and 62-15. Linda Meyer edged out Vivian Tefudo.
Good battle.
At a wall ball battle. Linda was just under 64. Vivian was just over 64, 62. Camilla Massa fell in the beginning with the first lap, got her pinky finger caught in the fence. Like it turned out to be broken and it was like bleeding. This was the first lap, held on to run this whole race, finished 5th. Then Rebecca Mason had a great showing, was 6th and 65-22. Viola Oberlander went out hot, ended up in 7th. Nila Vilnau was 8th, Tara Jackson 9th, and Zara Purgiani.
There we go.
Purgiani. It's not muscle memory yet. It was rounding out our
making fun of me in the spelling bee. You can't even
10.
pronounce names.
I'm making fun of you because you were good at the
5K.
spelling bee.
Oh,
You don't get to be good at the spelling bee and not get made fun of, even when you are 35, 36 years old.
34. Yeah.
All right. So
I bet your hand shut up every time there was a question in class.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, right.
That was Monica all the time. I don't like her.
Monica.
I don't want to be Monica.
Why are the women falling at the start of races?
I don't know.
This is not the first time.
No, it's not. I don't know how that happened. I think it was just excitement, got a little bit close, and she clipped Meg, who was in front of her, and went down, but still got up and ran almost a PR.
Yeah.
Didn't
it was Michaela.
Yeah, she went down. Same kind of
this
thing.
race.
She won, right?
Got up and ran.
Here last year, same thing.
Yes.
And it happens a lot in track and field. Like Stefan Hassan's always doing it. Like I don't know.
These track and field athletes are just bailing out though.
Yeah.
No, they're not. But they're not going to win, and they fall down at the end.
This isn't one of those. We start in a different hall and we zoom over in Chicago. You just merge straight onto a straightaway.
Yeah.
It's funky that it keeps happening.
Yeah, it was. I guess it was just packed up and a little bit tight. It just happens. Happens in cross country.
Yeah.
So Lauren Weeks went out in her typical fashion, going out pretty hard, ended up skiing
pretty hard,
really well, and just doing her thing. Meg hung back a little bit in the early portions, but by the time they got to sled pull, they were basically even, and Meg came out of there, I think 5 to 8 seconds. 20 seconds?
Oh.
Was it that much?
No, I watched the video. Maybe it was Burpee Broadjump where it was 22 seconds.
Yeah.
I kept hearing that multiple times, but yeah.
there was basically every station and every run after the sled pull, Meg was pulling away slightly to the point where by the end it was 2 minutes. How we feel? Are we surprised about this?
I would say yes, except that we just saw this at this venue last year. Lauren, after, I mean, have you had her on the show, Rich?
Lauren?
Yeah.
A while ago.
Okay. We had her on, and what we learned about Lauren is that she is the least scripted athlete in the sport. She's like, I just want to run 70, 80 miles a week in the mountains every week and do some CrossFit.
It's like Chris.
Yeah. Last year, her comment was before World, it was like 3 weeks before Worlds or 6, whatever it was. She just introduced quality running. Like there's no rhyme or reason to how she starts her off season and her preseason. So that is the only reason I'm not surprised, but it's always surprising to see someone as good as her not win.
Right. And she just ran 59 something in Dubai.
Yeah,
Dubai.
Right. So you wouldn't imagine the fitness had changed drastically between then and now. Cause that was what, maybe
it was first
7,
week September
8 weeks ago. Yeah.
I think it speaks more to Meg.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Meg was dominant. Like that was super impressive, honestly. Her running, I know she and Ryan Kent are going to be doing a doubles attempt in Dallas this weekend, right? For the team race.
Yep.
She might be making Kent hang on with her running right now.
I hope so. That'd be great.
Rich, is this an official world record attempt?
It's been announced, so
when two athletes like that team up, do they have to be like, I'm going for the world record, or they're just going to be like, I'm running this race and we're fast enough that the world record is just going to be? Does it have to be an attempt? Every race for them would be a world record attempt.
You got to drum up you got to drum up publicity.
I just think it's big news. I'm not doing individual, doing doubles. Guess the partner.
You?
Guess who my partner is?
Dallas?
Alex Walker.
Men's doubles.
Men's doubles.
Marcus.
Okay. Yeah.
No, he's got shingles.
Yeah, he's coming off of a shingles bout.
Oh man, I butchered.
Tell me it's Alphonse. He stayed over.
Oh, the team Ryan. Paleo.
I like
Is it?
Me and Paleo.
Yeah. Oh, you guys are gonna.
Is this gonna be the first time you're ever hanging on to someone on a run?
We'll see. And Dylan and David are doing it. Magita are doing it too. So we're gonna have a race. Then we're doing a relay at the end.
Is this a record attempt?
I just
declare it.
I'm not declaring it.
Dylan's gonna declare.
Magita will let you know if it's a record.
Post.
And when they get second,
yeah,
that will be. We'll see who gets the record.
I think the more important question is: are you going to be in the same wave? Because the last thing you want to do is win by 2 minutes and then find out you didn't win.
I freaking hope so. Maybe we should reach out to Hyrox and be like, "Hey, listen,
let us in the same.
You guys have these races, and with these races, there's times." Yeah. And because of we want to run fast, the faster people should run together. They'll be like, we're not really sure what you're saying. So
you have to put a label on it. A dual world record attempt.
There's definitely no need for labels here. Not really into labels.
Yeah.
So yes. So Meg's running is great. Her strength is great. She was just dialed in for this one and didn't press and just basically just kind of did her thing and then was able to just lengthen and go. So, Lauren's still the world champ, right? And it's early in the season, but this shows Meg is here in her second season through, and there could be a next level for her, as we keep seeing on the women's end. Like, where's that tier? Where's the top tier going to be? Like, there could potentially be an ascension to something different, or maybe it's just the time of the season, caught her on a good day, Lauren maybe not on her best day, and it's just like the way races play out sometimes.
I think it's so tough on the women's side specifically just because they always go unbroken on wall balls at the end. Like the race is over if you're not like by farmer's carry, if you have a major move, because they're just so good at the last two stations. So it almost makes sense for Lauren's strategy going out hard, just like be the first one heading into the lunges and you'll probably not fade enough at the end. Like that's usually how the women go. While on the men's side, you have like a big, although actually Vivian and Linda, I take that back. They had a battle on the wall balls this time, but like at the top of the sport, they're going unbroken.
Linda was unbroken. That was the difference.
I think it's time to move the weight up a little bit.
or
height
just throw it
up.
at the different target. Like we're not.
The target's there. You have a high and a low point. It's very just hit the top dot.
I don't think it needs to be scaled a full foot. Like I'm not a full foot taller than most of the women athletes.
Would you rather scale height or weight? Because I think the weight. Do you think the weight's scaled appropriately?
I think the weight,
CrossFit style it is 70%.
and it's just like exponential when it comes to the wall ball.
Bracken, what did you think about doing wall balls with a 14 pounder? I was like, if
Might as
you
well
need me
do
to go
air
unbroken, I'm doing 100 right now. And I haven't
Well, I
done
didn't
wall
think that.
balls. Oh, I did.
That's my partner's role. I'm supportive of unbroken wall balls. That's one of my strengths.
Jack's feeling himself now, dude. He's like, come on, bro. I'm broken. Everything.
I almost did it, but I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be a little too sore if I do this, and I got to let Bracken do some. So,
Jack, who wins in a Hyrox on rollerblades? You or Eugenio Bianchi?
Probably him. He's slightly better because I'd crash. So yeah.
You can do wall balls and rollerblades?
I'm not trying that.
Wear knee pads.
Just get wide.
Get wide?
Yeah.
That
like toe out.
How about the squat part?
Or
toe out,
might need to be like a split squat.
I'd be like
Maybe go
rolling
wide
back and forth the whole time. That'd be the worst idea.
You have the rubber stoppers
then you
on the
pivot
back.
in. Yeah, rubber stoppers.
Got to be on your heels, right?
Yeah.
Sink those heels.
I'll think about it. Yeah. There's only
I'm
one
talking
heel.
like the last time I rollerbladed wasn't when I was like
when you were
12.
like Ayla's age.
Like 6. So Linda Meyer finishing 3rd, going in there at the same time as Vivian Tafuto. Vivian getting 4th, that's just what she does right now, dude. She's got in that Delori spot. Solid.
Delori finally got his podium one of these years.
Still a Delori
so
spot. You can't just like give it up then.
Honorary.
But this is very encouraging for Linda.
Yeah.
She had a pretty hot start to the season last year, and it just never could come around. And when she ran the record, it was 63 something. I think she just dipped under 63 when she rebroke her own record. So she's back in form. So she's now absolutely a podium threat for Worlds if she can maintain health and keep fitness moving.
If you take Meg and Lauren out of the equation, how many other women are under 63 or capable of it at the moment?
One.
Maybe Michaela.
Michaela for sure. I think
Vivian Ken. She got there at the same time, and like potential.
I think Camilla could be there.
But the bottom line is she just beat them head to head and had international travel. But it's a fantastic spot for her to be in.
To punch her ticket, that's a huge result for her.
Yeah,
this is like, Meg is the clear winner here in terms of like who had the best result, just because not because she won, but because she beat the reigning world champ, 2-time world champion, the best we've ever seen. But outside of that, I say Linda comes away with a huge moral victory for this.
Well, we had talked, in myself in particular, that Linda might have missed her chance, like her window when Chris got it. Like that was that dead space in between Lauren and Meg was that year, and it's gone, and the sport has just risen, and she turned back the clock. Like she showed that she's not going the wrong way anymore. She's right back to where she was, with potential to even do better, because she didn't run the most aggressive race. It was a super good showing for her, and I bet she's now, like, it doesn't take a lot to get an elite athlete back locked in. That kind of showing can be all it takes to start clicking out race after race.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see what her like. Maybe she just picks her spots now and then doesn't need to race all these other majors, or doesn't need to race at all, right?
Does she get the roll down because Lauren and Meg kind of are the same way that Alex and Ryan were?
It rolls down to Camilla.
Okay, so she is one of the recipients, same as Vivian.
Well, she was top 3. Vivian already had her auto qualifier to all the majors for finishing. She got a roll down at World
top
Championships
5 at Worlds.
Finishing.
Yeah,
it's supposed to be top 3, but because there was a North American or whatever, they're just rolling down. Who wants
double
you
dipping,
get a roll
basically.
down?
Yeah,
you get a
Oprah
roll
out
down.
here.
Is there a world where there's more qualifiers than there are slots?
So they won't roll down past the 5th place finisher.
No, I'm saying in general. Could you, with world championships and different people showing up to majors, is there a world where they hand out more qualifiers than 15?
I think it can equal exactly 15, because you'll get 4 times 3 for the 4 majors times 3 potential new people, assuming they're all in the top 5. And then you get your podium from last year's World. So that just makes the last chance qualifier obsolete. Would that be the case?
Well, let's say that because they were giving it out for North American Championship last year, European Championship. So say like Megita won here, but then was not top 3, at Worlds.
Right.
And that, say Sandy wins European championships and doesn't finish top 3 in Worlds, then they get
Hunter
then there
wasn't
would have
here.
there would have been 5 rolling into
Plus
this year.
12. Potential 12.
It would be plus 9 because the last championship. So because they're like
Not 12?
It's for
Majors.
the last major. So there's 4 majors. So there could
Yeah.
only be automatic qualifiers for all the majors and 3 of them for that last qualifier, right?
Okay.
Because if
But
you
what about
qualify
the
in-
last
like,
chance qualifier?
last chance qualifier is its own thing.
There's no guarantee for
That's
it.
open.
Oh,
It's
okay.
just time-based.
I thought guaranteed somebody will make the world championship based on the world last chance qualifier.
Yes. We're saying yes. There's not a chance for there to be more qualifying spots for Worlds.
Okay.
And if they gave out 5 last year and then 9 at all the majors this year, there'd be 1 person on time at that final major in Dallas.
And it's not the winner of that, it's just the fastest throughout the season where it could I don't think it's Colin right now, but like if Colin had the fastest non-qualifying time, he'd get that last spot even if he doesn't go to the last chance qualifier.
That's still on time.
So you're saying the fourth major doesn't have, you're not counting that as slots?
Well, there would be no other major for them to qualify for.
There's no world path through that?
I thought Worlds
Top 3.
Gotcha.
Worlds is going to have 12 people from the 4 majors this year.
Yes, at most.
And then there's no automatic at Worlds from last year's results.
Correct.
Okay.
You have to
never mind.
qualify.
That's where our
Okay. That's what I was.
disconnect
I thought that you had last year's North American, European, and world champion go in. I was like, well, if they don't place top 3 at any of these races, now you've got 15. But okay, we've figured it out.
Yes. There's some news on the last chance qualifier as well, where there's 2. One is in like Hamburg, Jack.
Hamburg.
I believe. I don't know.
Hamburg is that's what it is. Yeah.
And there was going to be the second one in Hong Kong. They've changed the Hong Kong location, and it's now Anaheim. So they're putting a last chance qualifier in the United States. And the last chance qualifier has more qualifying spots than the first one. So say it is 3, like it works out that way.
Mhm.
And there will be 2 spots given out in Anaheim, which I think is massive for the US market.
If you're like a Chris Rogloski or, because she's going to be doing the Alua 8-hour Tough Mudder like the week before DC, that's just not going to happen. Being able to do, well, I guess maybe
She
for
will.
her, she
She
could
can
do
do
it.
It's only 8 hours.
Yeah. But anyway, like having that extra opportunity, I think that's fantastic for her, for Anaheim. And there are many other athletes in her boat.
So basically it's Anas, Colin, someone like a Marcus.
Could be like me.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to have like 6 people
It could be
probably
Dylan.
legitimately
Yeah,
that you're going to get 2 of them in.
potentially. It could be more.
Unless some Europeans come over.
That'd be crazy.
So Rich, there's a chance you will not make, or a high chance you don't make world championships based on what you just did this weekend.
I'm definitely not going to make world championships
Okay.
of what I just did this weekend. I have to finish in the top 3 or 5.
Because your time wasn't fast enough.
There's no
to
time
get that.
qualifier for worlds.
Okay. Gotcha.
I still need to get on the podium at a major or a roll down at a major while being within the top 5.
Okay.
So like if the same result happened if we all
You
had
just
the
got to
same-
roll down to be able to compete in another major.
in all the majors.
Okay.
all of them.
But it has no impact on your worlds.
Correct.
And that would be the same for Camilla and Vivian.
Yes, Vivian already had one. Camilla, it didn't roll past Camilla
Yeah.
because it had to be top
Okay.
5.
Well, I
So it
meant
would've
that
been-
they're not into worlds yet either, unless they run a fast enough time.
Right. So if the same field shows up
podium.
in Vienna and the
Yeah.
result is the same, then I would be in because there was already 3 people who have
Yeah.
their spots and it would roll down 2.
Yeah.
So that's where we're
So
at.
the fact that this was a very US heavy one isn't, you would have probably preferred Europeans beat you in this race because they're probably going to be in Vienna doing better.
I don't know, dude.
Yeah. I don't know.
Basically
We'll see.
want the same people at every race.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And if you're in the women's field, knowing that Meg and Lauren are going to be doing it, you're probably happy if you're on one of those roll down athletes.
But it's only past 5, right? So if Meg, Lauren,
You still have to do well because they're
Michaela
taking
show
1
up,
and 2 most
right.
likely. Yeah.
yeah, you can
Yeah,
get
you want them not
sixth.
there.
You want
Yeah,
them not
that-
there.
that's a good point.
Seriously.
Yeah.
And then also on the women's side, I think this is a great result for Rebecca Mason being there. Viola, again, she went out pretty hard. She kind of made a post before that she's really not in fantastic shape, so she went after it. And then it was a lot of newer athletes that we saw in that bottom 5 of the race. So these are new athletes who are getting their first taste of this.
If you look at the live stream, Linda did a really good job pacing. She was like a minute behind at the burpee broad jumps, and then kept closing, cutting, and then she got to wall balls essentially at the same time as Vivian. So I think that she had a very strategic race and just kind of kept chipping away, and stayed within her element. Not to say anything against Vivian and her pacing strategy, because she got there with a potential podium right there. But I think Linda did a really good job cutting down.
Definitely.
Do you have could we do that sled push comparison that we did for the men? I'm just curious if it lines up for the women as well.
Oh, sure. I believe it would, but I don't know. So it's a good question. Let me just talk about something else while
Rich, you saved me. I ran our episode with Dr. Wickham through your software.
Did it work?
Salvaged it.
Nice.
Salvaged it. Game changer. So now we have another 2 in the past that we lost. I'm going to rerun those through.
Yeah.
See what happens. I don't know what it can do about one of them.
Because you're using the internet version, right? The internet backup or whatever.
Cloud recording.
And it's always so shitty. But that software is good for that.
So thank you.
Where's the push? I got you, dude. So Vivian really went hard there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
She put herself in it.
She did.
Yeah.
But look at that spread.
I know.
It's 1 second for the top 3.
Right. Then Viola was hard, and Linda
and Lauren and Meg had the opportunity to feed off each other basically because they were next to each other at that point. While Vivian kind of rolled in a little bit after and was kind of going on her own pace. I'm sure
she was in third.
Yeah.
At this
point.
But
still, she wasn't running with Meg or Lauren.
She wasn't far behind, I don't think.
But I think this just shows like you raced who you're next to. It's almost the same thing. I bet most of these athletes came in next to each other all the way through. And we're not seeing like some kind of outlier like
look at 9 through 11. You've got 344, 344, 345 for Maria, Zara, and Tara. I bet they were very close to each other. Looking at the results right there, like there's a bit of a spread, but at that point in the race, they were probably pretty close to each other.
Actually, I'm wrong. Wasn't Viola in behind them?
She was definitely
she went out hot
or close to.
Yeah, I think she came in third.
She may have been third. Yeah, for sure.
Check burpee broad jumps again. Okay,
so
not as much correlation right there.
Made a big move here, yeah.
But this is what Vivian did not go 412. Like that, it's another. I'm not believing the split for this one.
Yeah, they may have not gotten.
And if the guys are going, like, do you think Meg's going 311 on the burpee broad jumps when some of the guys are going 220, 230? That just seems a little slow.
I mean, you got to add the.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the jump and
the jump.
Just
okay.
Gotta be doing 5 to 10 more reps.
This is the station that it would be advantageous.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Be a little bit longer,
but then wall balls, they get the benefit.
Yep, totally.
I'll tell you what, Meg's transitions were so good.
Yeah,
she carried her speed from the in to the station around that corner, and she wasn't cutting the corner. Like people started cutting the corners throughout the race. She kept her speed on that curved route in, as well as any single person in the race. She looked so stable and strong all the way up until starting the station. Like
we need some cones or something over there because it was weird. There was
just one.
Just like, go around this one. Because I felt that way too. It's like, where can I cut across? I'm not trying to do this 90-degree angle out here.
No.
Yeah. But she looks so good. Her in was as good as anything I've ever seen.
What was her run split?
Her total run split. Good question. Let's have a look. 32:49.
Okay. That seems a little slower than she often does, but
on the men.
But there's no rock zone.
Okay. Because I was like, she looked like she was as fast as we've ever seen her. So
yes,
that makes
I would
sense.
say that she is as fast as we've ever seen her for sure. And that was one thing coming in where she says like, my running is great. She felt like on fire for the run. So, and she's always going to have strength in there. And I think that, it all just kind of came together for her.
So where does that 32:48 put her on the men's side?
Oof, good question. Say some stuff while I pull it up.
Pretty high. I thought Kent was running like 405, 4 flat, like in that range for most of his. So
He's probably a little faster. Yeah.
yeah, probably pretty in line, honestly.
That is a good question. Yeah, because I mean, once she's running 60 flat, her PR is 58.50. I got my PR is now faster than hers. I had to let her know
big.
about that shit too. Say I
With a
wouldn't have
higher
the
wall ball target.
Say I wouldn't have the women's world record. I would have that. All right, let's see what we got.
So Jack, having just done doubles, which is women's pro weight, what could you run in a women's race?
Well, we just did if I was doing that solo.
Yeah. You a 58, 59 guy? Gal?
57.
57.
I think
57.
I had 15 plus seconds on the runs, but then I would have had to do some of the zones completely. Like the sleds wouldn't have blown me up. I think it would have been the burpee broad jumps. I would have lost probably a minute on that versus the pace that we were going. Yeah, I'd say 57.
What was next time? Did we say
high.
32?
32.48, I thought you said.
That would have put her right behind Eugenio in front of John Wynn at like 9th.
They're not slouches.
No, definitely not.
Eugenio like routinely was keeping up with the best European Spartan racers as a runner. Like
He should be one of the better runners in this field.
Yeah.
Right?
So
will Meg ever do OCR?
No. She came up.
She mentioned that thing for Alpha Warrior. She was like, it was kind of fun hanging on the obstacles. But I don't
she
know.
hasn't done one yet. She came up through Noob Sanity. And
Yeah.
she like that was how she got into sport, and she still doesn't like OCR, and that's what those dudes do. What that squad does. She's not like no.
It's just like when we saw Kent and Hunter come out and do slow for that national series race, and it was cool to watch them out there. It'd be cool to see her do something like that just once.
We saw Lauren do Palmerton, and it was like, was that cool?
Well, that wasn't. That was a dumb race. But
Right.
we've seen Lauren do like Utah.
Is there an undumb race she could do?
Yeah, non 3K
I don't know.
with a 7-minute crawl.
Jacksonville. All right, that's decent. That's decent transition.
She should do Jacksonville.
We have again the next major here for Hyrox is going to be in Stockholm in 2 weekends, so pretty quick turnaround. We're going to see Lauren and Meg. That is their plan to get back out there. We should see Michaela as well. So that's
She's from Sweden, so
you would imagine.
yeah.
And she's healthy and cleared apparently, but
Just to keep on the women right there, like if you're Vivian coming off of this race, like you almost got on the podium. There's no Meg, there's no Lauren. Like you must be heading into DECA World Championship weekend. Like this is gonna be good.
mm-hmm. She's got to be thinking, and I think she's the top seed and fit.
Mile record holder. She ran like a 32:40 something in DECA Fit.
We're gonna see her on the podium for sure in a couple of things.
Is Camilla going over, or is she sticking?
She's doing DECA.
DECA, oh man.
So
yeah, and then
fun too.
we know
Tara seems like she's in good DECA form right now.
Yeah, her she's fast.
She's coming back,
I think it's kind of like Rylan, where like he's fantastic at Hyrox and stuff, but I think DECA is like if you capture their skill set, that's perfect for. And I think Tara's along the same way. We're like very, very good at Hyrox, but I think DECA, that's where she's really going to stand out.
We got about 15 minutes to talk about the Spartans new series situation that we have. They've announced some of the venues and some of the distances, I believe, for this next season. Kind of reverting back. It seems to be a bit of a blend. More championships than there are series races, because why wouldn't we do all of the stuff? They haven't taken my recommendation to only be trifectas yet. They should. But Jack, could you give us a rundown of what we're doing? Or actually, do you want to put a pin in that? Because there was some interesting.
We don't need to talk about OCR this week. We're hybrid if that's what you want to do.
Nice. Because there's a couple interesting takes from some athletes. I don't know if you guys saw this with what Rylan had come out and said, and Belle McFarlane. I think these are interesting talking points.
Yeah, they're worth it. Yeah.
Shall we do it? So let's start with Rylan on this, because Belle's is kind of, we talked about the system. Hers is more system based, but Rylan came out and was kind of like, this sport does not acknowledge that doping is bad or against the rules, and it doesn't sit well with them. I don't know if in his post did he say he's not going to compete in it anymore, or is he just kind of like, was there any declaration of that? Rylan said he wasn't going to do Hyrox again because they didn't take care of the athletes, but he's here again. So I think it's a little bit of like, I don't feel comfortable competing in this field if they're not going to have an anti-doping policy. Not even like, hey,
not even a threat to have it. It's just not even mentioned.
It's not mentioned. It's not like Rylan's not like, hey, I want all these athletes tested. He's like, I just want the race organizers to acknowledge that it's against the rules, because right now it's not. So therefore, like, it's legal, right?
Yeah. You're 6 years in, and you've had a rule book this whole time. Like, even just in one sentence, like performance enhancing drugs use of that will not be
strictly
prohibited or something. Yeah, it's not just one liner right there. You don't even need to mention testing and stuff. Just have that at this point. Like, obviously, I would love testing. I think that just ensures a fair sport for everybody. But to not even list it in there, I'm on Rylan's side with that.
BK, this is your thesis. Let's hear it.
Everyone knows my stance on doping, that there's no place for it. However, I don't think you can make a statement like it's illegal here, but we don't test. Like, that's pointless. Having a statement in the rule book about it and not doing anything for it opens the company up for more issues than it solves. Because then what do you do with hearsay? What do you do with someone if they're caught with it? What if someone gets caught somewhere else? Like, if you don't have protocol in place, you can't even say it's illegal to do. That's my take on it. Like, if there is no punishment for it and there is no testing, why would you even make the statement? I don't think they want to. They'd lose half their field if they did test. And if they don't test, why would they even have a field? Rule? I would say half the men's field at any of the past world championships could not have tested clean. Roughly half, give or take. Wow. 10 to 15%. Yeah. Again,
10 to 15% plus or minus one person. You mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Different.
Absolutely.
It, yeah.
And the argument against that is always, it's a new sport. Why would people? It's like, that's a dumb argument. I'm sorry, but that's a dumb argument. It's what were they doing prior to this? Bodybuilding, fitness modeling, CrossFit, endurance, running, sports, cycling, triathlon. This is a who's who of the dirtiest sports in the world. You go to any gym in the world and not everyone, it's just everywhere. So it's not that they found Hyrox and they're like, hey, if I start doping, it's that they came into this shredded and jacked using, and now they're training like an athlete. So no, I don't believe that half the sport could pass a drug test.
That would still pass a drug test though, typically, right? If you're not currently.
No, I'm saying, why would they stop?
Oh, okay.
They got jacked, for their fitness modeling or for whatever they were doing, bro lifting with their friends, doing CrossFit. And now they found a competition version of it. Like, at what point are you like, hey, you know what would be fun if I felt way worse and trained harder? Like, they're not going to stop now. So no, I don't believe it is clean, but I also don't think you can even just make a statement like, hey, it's not allowed here. And that's it. Like, there has to be then the next thing in place. And if there's not, then they're open for blowback when there's not something in place.
Because the way I see it is they probably didn't even think about it. That is just something that they have not considered to put in a rule book. Yeah, honestly, because it is easy, like what Jack said, just put a line in there. Like, and I didn't even know this was a thing until it was brought up. I think conversations outside of Rylan's post, like, I was aware that it wasn't in it, but I didn't think much about it, and I just think that they didn't think about it at all.
Well, where does it stop? Like, the line is, it's not allowed for what? Who can't use it?
What do you mean?
Like, who in Hyrox can't use drugs? Spartan's never going to test their open waivers, but in Hyrox, open wave is everything. Age group is open wave, and they have podiums for it.
Right.
So if you say no one can use it, and we're targeting CrossFit gyms and gyms, like, some of your clientele may not come, and that's the bottom line. You
think that they would lose participation if they said that they were anti-doping?
But why would they even risk it? So then it would have to be, it's only illegal for the elite 15. But that fills from the bottom.
Now you're encouraging people to do it with that language, though.
This is my point. If you don't have a full system, you can't dabble, because everything turns into, like, the way I'm being pedantic right now and playing devil's advocate on the other side. That's what people do online. except way harsher than how I'm going to speak it right now. So if you don't put something in place, people are going to rip it to shreds from both sides. Oh, you're saying we can in the open, but what if I start open and I was running 70 minutes and now I'm running 62? Like, do I have to stop? And am I accused of, it's going to cause issues. So no, I don't think you make a statement at all unless you're willing to go all the way.
Let's go Wild West. I like it. Just pew, 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 pew. Do what you want. Let's see what you got.
So if you mentioned Bracken, they're appealing to CrossFit gyms and stuff. That's like a pretty big segment of their population, I would imagine, for who's competing in this. When was the first year that there was like a notable CrossFit Games drug test that resulted in a positive? It was probably Ricky Garrard, 2018, right?
The most notable because he was on the podium.
Yeah, but that was like the first time that like you really heard about it. I'm sure I could dive deeper into it and stuff and hear, and maybe there were people in 16, 15, whatever. But guess when Hyrox came around, 2018, it's like this has been around the entire process. Like you could have mentioned it at least one point. They definitely heard about Ricky Garrard. They actually were highlighting him competing.
They brought him to a race.
Yeah.
What did Spartan do?
They're supporting him right there. Yeah.
Spartan made a stance against it, said we may or may not have drug testing. Come to the next race, meet Lance Armstrong. Like, these companies aren't going to affect their bottom line, guys. I think we need to realize that.
I know. Their businesses,
their events
are participatory sports overall. Obviously, we look at it from the sports side. That's what our podcast is about. But yeah,
the other thing is that like I'm super jaded on everything because I follow endurance sports and sports in general. And like, what has it solved at the pro level of track and cross country? Well, it got a country banned because the country was doing
Kenya's about to be again.
Yeah. And they can't keep their A and B samples straight. And they're constantly having people bribing their test proctors or people getting tipped off. And this is at the pro level. What do you think is going to happen when they use some podunk little lab on the side? Like they'd be more effective doing the thing Macaulay proposed back in Spartan early days, which is just to hire a fake doctor to show up at people's door with a little buttonhole cam on his lapel and say, hey, we're here for your random drug test, and just record their reactions. That's it. And then post that online, and that'll shame people out of the sport because they won't be able to hide from that first initial, oh shoot, I didn't know about this. And that's it. And then move on. And everyone knows who's dirty. That's my anti-doping program.
So you're supporting impersonating a doctor. I see.
I am supporting public shaming.
I know, I'm just messing with you. Do you remember Utah, maybe 5-6 years ago, Stark Corral for a national series race? And I think it was Robert Coble. He's like, surprise guys, we're going to do drug testing. And then miraculously, like 2 or 3 pretty high level people had an awful performance that day. And it's like, actions speak louder than words right there. They didn't end up testing people, or maybe they did. And
they announced the week of SoCal, and 2 or 3 people didn't show up who had already committed.
Who were gonna?
It's a thing, and people like to pretend like, where would we even start? I wouldn't even know how to. Come on.
Yeah.
Does that ever stop drug use in our country?
You can just look back at the results.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
I was raised Irish Catholic, man. I just couldn't sleep at night. Too much guilt. I don't think I could do it.
We stick to our alcohol and our domestic abuse.
Right. We're just gonna shove all of our emotions down and just not do steroids because that's bad.
So I agree with Rylan, but we're talking about a scenario that's non-viable.
And if they did say something like, we're going to test at World Championship, people are going to get off it by then. You've got like 8 months until Worlds, especially the people who are already in. Not that I'm accusing anybody. It's like, but if you're already in, why would you even bother at that point if you get a free pass for sure?
Having drug testing in a sport is about public image. It's not about cleaning up the sport. Because A, it's an intelligence test, and B, you understand that you can only test for what you know is out there. And so, no, it's not. It's never been about cleaning up any sport ever. Because if it were, then the people at the top of the sports wouldn't be trying so hard to cover up people who dope and get caught. It's never been about
dopes
that.
Also. Yeah.
So no, I'm jaded. It's everywhere. No one really cares about catching them. And Rylan's right, but he's in a helpless situation.
I think that's more of his point, though. It's like, hey, just like help me feel good about supporting you, so that, like we are on the same page in terms of like understanding that this is bad. Like just say that it's bad, so that like I can stomach supporting you. It's like I think he's with you, Bracken. It's like it's never gonna be clean, and because he comes from cycling, right? Like he knows the deal. So
the problem is
wants to feel okay about participating in this sport.
The other problem is like, what were we brought up to know about steroids? Which it was super anabolic back in our era growing
Make your
up.
balls shrink.
Yeah. They lead to
Back knee.
horrific outbursts. It's only bad
Back
for you.
knee.
Heart
bad for you.
issues, back knee.
It's actually awesome for you.
Abuse, roid rage, all of this. Now we live in an era of anti-aging in health and wellness, and that we're going to optimize the human. We're going to like anti-aging for men is huge. It's $1 billion business. And so we can't say it's bad for you because science is now proving that most of these things that athletes use for performance
It's good
really make your life better.
Yeah.
And so like, you can't even take that stance. The only stance you can take is that it's not fair.
It's not fair.
And the qualification system's not fair. And the sleds aren't fair. Like fair is not a thing for Hyrox either. So like, what are we fighting against? Only principles and morals, which again, I'm with him on, but it's not a business practice.
So what are the chances you think we'll see this? I think that
50-50 within 2 years.
They announced a random, hey, here's a new last chance qualifier event. We're changing things like in the same season. I think that they probably saw, oh crap, the US athletes did kind of well. Maybe we should give them another spot at this point. And they made a sudden rule change. So I could see them putting language in there. I don't think they're going to test, but they could do a 180 on this.
But I think Bracken's right. 'Cause some of the comments were like, what does it matter if they say if their actions aren't going to back it up with testing?
Yeah.
And I'm kind of that way too. Like I didn't know that they didn't say it, and I don't think it changes anything if it did say it, because yeah, like Spartans, they say it, and like I don't think that deterred people from.
They've had like
not doing
6
it.
tests ever.
Yeah.
You're right. Right. And it's expensive. You know, like
Yeah.
it's not something that's like, you can't just like call on like the government or something, be like, hey, we want to, could someone support this for us? It's like, nah, it's not how it works, right? These are all private companies.
Their response though will tell us about what their long-term plan is. Are they a sport or an event? Because if they do want to be a sport long-term, then it's inevitable.
Yeah.
There is no major sport that doesn't have testing. It's just how serious do they test? Like, is this NBA testing or is this track and field testing?
What do you think they should do? What do you think? Yeah, like I guess, yeah. What would you do?
It's
My stance.
Oh, go ahead.
No, do it, Jack.
I was just going to say,
talking too much
what
on
if they
this.
don't put the language in there and then in Sweden, they just pick 2 people and they're like, come with me, but they don't have a stance against it. And then they do test positive. It's like, well, it's not in the rules. Like what happens there?
Yeah,
Well,
like
only if
nothing
there's a
happens
punishment.
there, right? Yeah, there's no
You can't
punishment.
force a test on you if it's not in the rules. You can't force it at all. You just, if you decline it, then that's a positive test and you're banned. But if they don't have rules, then they can't punish you for something.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
My stance always used to be, if you are calling yourself a sport or a championship or a pro and you give away money, it's your responsibility to test. But then like, does Grit have to test, and New Sanity and Savage? Like at what point does it end? At some point it's financially non-viable for these brands to do this. So I don't know what they should do. I think we're in a weird gray area where it's too complex to do it cheap. There are cheapish options, but it's too complex to do it well and cheap. And so I don't know. I don't know what they should do.
Like, could it ruin the sport before it even gets started? Right. Like, could it, before they actually start to take this seriously and the sport's like ramped up? A sport, it's an event. I don't call it a sport. They call it a sport. It's an event. Like, would it just have this bad reputation even before it can be
From what
clean?
way?
From a sport
Like if people start
perspective.
testing positive?
Yeah. Like,
I think the court of public opinion is all that matters. Like everyone knows that baseball and football are rampant. Nobody cares.
I guess
They
it doesn't
pretended to
run
care about
CrossFit,
baseball
right?
for a little bit. Everyone can look at CrossFit and say, this doesn't pass the eye test. Nobody cares. Like you've got people like me who will complain about it on the side and still watch it. Like, public opinion is all that really matters.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I guess that's fair. So so from their perspective, like it's not going to damage us to the point where it's going to put us under. And if they stay the event route, which I think is what they will do in the foreseeable future, then it doesn't really matter.
Okay. If they won't test, how many people are leaving the sport?
1, maybe.
Rylan, maybe. So
For that specific reason, or just leaving it?
No,
Yeah.
because of that action. How many people will leave if they realize, hey, I could be competing against doped athletes? How many people are leaving?
I think
you know,
several
one
people
maybe.
think about it though. They're like, "Hey, I'm at a disadvantage, and I'm suspicious of blank and blank," but you know,
So
there's nothing
They
to
might
prove
start doping.
that might happen. I think the only way it impacts them negatively is if they just decide we don't care about it, we're not doing it, and like 5 years down the line, they run into this situation where they have this opportunity to partner up and make it a real official sport, and now they have to implement
Yes.
it, and then they lose half their sport.
But then there'll be new athletes, like right, like, and when the sport that's something this could happen. Like there could be some sort of investor or a sponsor that in this sport spins off,
Right.
and maybe that's when that becomes. But like right now, there's no like, yeah, why would they do it? Like they're not gonna. And if Rylan doesn't show up, you know who will? Whoever's 15th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if CrossFit loses 50% of their pros right now, the ranks are filled tomorrow.
Yes.
And you give it 1 year and they've now built up the new athletes and storylines and people know their names.
Track and feels the same. Yeah.
There's
Totally
always
agree.
someone else willing to do what you're not.
Definitely. So it's admirable if he speaking out about it, taking a stance. If he decides not to, I mean that's on his own thing. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting because he's the first person to really kind of bring this public, especially after a big
In Hyrox.
result in Hyrox. Yeah.
As a theoretical clean athlete, because we can't know about anyone, you're in an impossible situation. Impossible. There's no good way to approach it.
Yeah. From the
You're
athlete side,
punishing yourself by stepping outside of it.
right?
And you're putting yourself at risk by stepping into it.
Mhm.
Your platform is your platform. You can only do with it what you can do with it. But your
Mhm.
bottom line sucks either way.
Yeah. All right. We can talk about Belle maybe another time, but she had HFM made a post about kind of her stance. She's like, this is like kind of my whole deal. Like, this is not about the sport. This is about legacy and building stories. And that's stupid and unfair. And even though she's another one who would benefit from it, but she kind of spoke as like, I'm not going to be participating this year because of the system is stupid, which I guess is admirable. It's nice. But again, same
Like
thing.
she's benefiting,
else
but
is gonna
doesn't
take
like it. Yeah.
Yeah. Someone else will take it, and that's fine.
It's important to remember that the first few years of a sport are simply laying down their lives so that the sport can have legs later on. Like you're just kindling for the fire.
Mhm.
Like you might have to go through some like building legacy and storylines and all that so that someone in the future can have a fair system. And
Right.
that's tough. That's tough to deal with.
Right. All right, fam, let's wrap this thing up. What do we have on TRP this week?
Well, thanks to you, we're releasing for the first time an episode we thought was lost to the world.
Nice.
So we have Dr. Wickham on, who's a specialist on joint strength, mobility, health, prehab, rehab, fixing knee and back pain, all
Was it
that
just
good
like
stuff.
it was just like if you're in Hyrox, hey, just like take exogenous testosterone and performance enhancers, and you'll just be better.
Some HGH,
You'll feel
picks
good.
you right back up.
You're ready to go. Well, nice, good. I'm glad that you got that going. What'd you have on Friday?
We had on Friday, oh my goodness, I'm gonna blank on her name. This is really bad.
NM. Check out wherever you get podcasts.
Man,
You'll see
It's
it
not
there.
out yet. I didn't get it
Oh.
out this weekend.
Oh, right. Yeah, you were gonna come stay with me, and you're like, "Hey, I can't. Gotta edit the podcast."
Too
Saw
much
you on
work.
Saturday. I was like, "Hey, did you get that podcast edited?" You were like, "Hell no." I was like, "All right."
Life got crazy.
Life gets crazy sometimes. We had an in-person episode for RMR Training Podcast. We had Alex Ronkovich, Florian Kova of Hyrox Daily, and James Kelly all sitting around. Yeah, I got this recorder. I brought it. I thought maybe we can get a little bit of race brain in person, but that wasn't happening. That was not happening that day at all.
Did it work well? Did you
I
like
had a
it?
flight. Yeah.
It actually sounded way better than I thought. I bought a couple cheap microphones. It was cool. So we're gonna have to make it happen. It worked.
in.
We're gonna do it because I kind of know how to do it now. I was like, I have this thing that has like 4 plugs for microphones, and only 2 of them are working. And I was like, what? This is crazy. I just bought this thing. It has this great reputation. I was like, this machine should work. And I was like going back and forth with customer service. I was like watching YouTube videos, and I was like, what should be happening is very simple, and I don't know why it doesn't work. And then right before we started recording, I realized that on the other 2 microphone jacks, the volume wasn't up. And I was like, oh, still novice over here. That's it for us.
On.
Be in Dallas, a couple of doubles, throwdowns happening. We
How's
might have
VJ gonna do?
VJ Jones out there. He should be good. He should be good, man. He's a good racer. You know, put him in anything, he's gonna figure it out. So
Exactly.
his fitness is solid. And then I don't know who else would really be in that race. Tough beat for our guy Marcus Wallace, man. Especially after he has beaten both Colin and Anas, and Marcus is in the best shape. He's in much better shape than last year. Comes down with shingles the day of the freaking race.
Yeah.
Not the day.
On
the week
paper,
of,
he runs 57 mid, just based on what they did.
right? Like
But
50.
he goes sub 60.
Oh yeah, he runs 58 something. His runnings are so much better. He's so good at the stations. Tough break for a guy. And we got Deca coming up in 2 weeks. Next week we'll talk about, maybe we can talk about the Spartan stuff. Anything else we got?
That's about it.
That's about it. Cool squad. Thanks for joining us as always. We'll talk to you soon.